With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
It's been a season of dominance for Regenboog Motorsports for the past 10 weeks, with Brett Karakoff winning 3 out of the 9 races we've run so far in the trucks, and the titular Richard Regan Jr. winning 6 out of the 9 races run so far in Xfinity. 1/3 of the truck wins, 2/3 of the Xfinity wins. I'm no mathematician, but that adds up to something of a whole lot of beatdown. Welcome to round 10 in 2023 Season 2 for the PRL NASCAR Truck Series and the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series, live from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Hi everybody, my name is Joey Tebbin, and with me in the booth just in time is Justin Prince. Behind the scenes is our producer Hugo Luis as well. Both championships have been decided so far, Justin, and for better or for worse, that just means there's a little bit less pressure in the air here at the end of the season, and we might just be able to have one final bit of fun to end the season here.
Yeah, that could be an interesting night and an interesting combo in turn for this evening, with this being the closing race of the season here at Charlotte, a track that is not too difficult, but also not very easy because of its bumps. When it comes to the season, keep in mind, following that real-world schedule, lots of different challenges in this stage of the campaign in the real world, such as Circuit of the Americas, such as that of Texas, such as that as the Paper Cup at Martinsville, such as that at Dover, such as that in North Wilkesboro, of course, being such a thrill. This should be intriguing here at Charlotte tonight.
It should be indeed. It's been a very intriguing season as well, despite the fact that Brett Karakoff has mathematically clinched the championship, we believe. It's still been a very exciting season. We've had multiple different winners. We saw people like Patrick Cowgill in 3rd getting his first win in the PRL. Steve Loving got a win. Alan Dice got a win. In the top 10 there, you see 6 different winners, actually, with both Karakoffs joining those drivers I mentioned as well, and Dallas Sullivan. It's been a very, very exciting season so far, and it's been very, very exciting in the Teams Championship as well, and it is still not clinched here. The Drivers' Championship may be locked up, but the Teams Championship is not. Regenboog Motorsports 35 points above Loaded Dice Racing. That's a very comfortable margin. Essentially, if both Regenboog trucks, or all 3 Regenboog trucks, finish in a good spot, they're going to clinch the championship. But if things go horrifically wrong and Loaded Dice gets a lot of points, it could all change. So we're gonna hang our laurels on that. But before we can do that, we have to thank those people who gave us those laurels in the first place. And first and foremost, it's Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. From Advanced Sim Racing, it's Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using that Precision 5 coupon code. This coverage is also brought to you by the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with the Butt Kicker. Mechasim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mechasim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed and check them out. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And last but not least, it is Ninja Trader. Better futures start now. Trade the world's future markets with Ninja Trader. Visit ninjatrader.com to access unlimited free trade simulation. Thanks to all of those sponsors who make all of this possible. And right as we finish with that, the grid's ready. Qualifying's done here. Brett Karakoff and Matt Karakoff on the front row. It's all Karakoff all the time here in Charlotte. CM Punk Pennington, fantastic qualifying for him after some coaching from Abner Acosta. He starts P3 alongside Steve Loving. Then it's DDI Motorsports with Panzarella and Dalton Geyer much higher than usual after also getting coached by Abner Acosta. Hunter, Ryu, Hilton, Cowgill, Palumbo, and Brodeur down to P12. That's the top dozen, but the hits keep on coming. Unlucky 13th in qualifying went to Dallas Sullivan, currently second in the championship, mathematically out of the real championship fight, but he's still going to keep fighting to the end here. He won here last time we ran at this track, by the way. Cody Adkins in P14, then row number 8 is Nicholas Starling and Thomas Brendel. Ryan Traver and Dylan Schmidt round out the top 18. Robert Goff and Oliver Goff, the two brothers Goff, we believe, on row number 5, on row number 10, rather, if I can do my math right. Then Colton Easterday and Tom Lamasi, last couple of drivers to set qualifying lap times. Bradley Holly will not be racing in this event. You only see him because he was setting up this session. And Garrett Austin, Alan Dice, Nicholas Saint-Germain, Richard Pruitt, and Stacey Hunter round out the field. A lot of those drivers disallowed from qualifying after bringing out cautions last week. To be specific, Stacey Hunter, Garrett Austin, and Zachary Smith all disallowed from qualifying because they were a little bit naughty at North Wilkesboro last week. Also, Kevin Joban and Keith Miller, unfortunately, were even more naughty. They brought out multiple cautions at North Wilkesboro last week, and they have been sat on the bench. They're going to take one race off, and then when we go racing again at the start of next season, they will be back with us. But, Justin, it is a fast formation lap around here, and it's the brothers Karakoff on the front row, one of them dominantly in the lead of the championship, one of them searching for redemption after a race he could have won here last time we ran at Charlotte.
Yeah, this could be interesting over the course of the next 40 minutes. The track temperature is fairly cool as to be expected with the night conditions. Expect that to stay around stagnated on that temperature tonight because of the tire buildup in the racetrack. But the major thing for when it comes to the trucks to consider for this race, Joey, the Karakoffs have a big advantage. The chance to work together as teammates, be able to dictate the tempo, the pace, with how dominant the bottom of the racetrack can be and how dominant working together as a group can be to pull away for the rest of the pack after 10 laps.
Under the lights at Charlotte. It's a finale to the season. No championship on the lines. It's already been clinched, but that means we're going to have a little bit more fun here. The pressure is off. We can put on yet another great truck race at Charlotte. The iRacing sedan pace car pulls onto pit road, and the brothers Karakoff take control of the field with Brett at the head of the field. Our favorite basement boy takes the green flag, and for one final time in 2023 Season 2, we're green in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. Brett Karakoff won at North Wilkesboro last week with all those restarts on the strength of his restart ability, and he's done exactly the same thing there at the initial start. He leads his brother into turn 3 for the first time.
I think there's an issue, Joey, because there was an issue in the start box because, remember, we followed the real-world starting zone, crashed down the front.
Dallas Sullivan around to the front straight there, still wrecking. That's Cody Adkins backwards down the front straight. Couple drivers trying to avoid the rolling chicane there. Garrett Austin stays out of trouble, but huge trouble, Justin. You were alluding to some issues with the restart box or the start box, but we've got even more issues now.
Yeah, Brett Karakoff went early, I think because the crash, they waived the penalty because otherwise there would have been the risk of the DQ. But a big one through the quad over for the first time, and that's the trouble when you get off to the starts and the restarts, is you end up having a lot of drivers push, and there's a chance on cold tires, with the truck potentially also able to bottom out in the tunnel turn to see drivers spin around and snap around by the front stretch.
It's an absolutely crazy way to start the season. They're all going to wait for the iRacing sedan pace car to come back by. But you can see at the bottom of your timing there, Dallas Sullivan involved, Tom Macy involved, Pruitt, Hunter, they've got damage as well. Cody Adkins is actually going to get some of his spots back as his spin came after the caution. But we did not make it very far there. We made it about 1.5 miles, and Brett Karakoff completes 1 lap under green, and it starts to look a little bit more like North Wilkesboro for him last week. But let's see what happened here. There was a huge loose moment. That was Hayden Palumbo who got loose, and nowhere Dallas Sullivan could go behind.
Yeah, bad break for Sullivan for the timing of that, but that's exactly what I just talked about. Just carried so much speed through the corner apex exit. But as he pushed up at the edge of the seam, it spun him around, looped him around along the bumps. Just nowhere to go for a lot of those drivers because, again, when you are off a start, you have to be careful in that regard.
Dallas Sullivan was mathematically out of this championship coming into this because of the amount of the trucks in the field. Theoretically, if there were 30 trucks in the field, Sullivan would have been mathematically alive, but there's only 27 in the field tonight, so this won't be extra hurtful for him. It still will be pretty hurtful to go out on lap 1. Let's ride on board with the driver in the number 46, sees Palumbo go around ahead of him, and yeah, there it is again. It's no better to watch from the onboard, is it?
No, it's not, and as a driver, you're absolutely frustrated when that happens right on lap 1, turn 3 in the first up-to-speed corner section. So, I'm going to give some clarification. I hear it over the radio. There is the talk, remember, about how the start box works. On the initial start, it goes off Barney the flagman. Restarts, it goes off the leader or Barney, depending on who comes first. It appears there may have been the chance on that initial start, Joey, that he went before Barney waved the green.
It is possible. There's a little bit of controversy after North Wilkesboro last week because Brett Karakoff was starting so early. He may have actually been starting before the restart zone, I think. I may need to scroll back and then see what actually went on there, but there was definitely some discussion of that, and maybe Brett Karakoff coming within the confines of the rules once more.
But here's the difference between North Wilkesboro and Charlotte. At North Wilkesboro, pace car's off. Your start box is within half a second of the pace car off. So it's kind of hard to even say where exactly the restart zone is, where it seems to be based on where's the pace car at. But at Charlotte, it's very much distinctly clear because of its modern facility aspects of this racetrack. So that's your major difference between where it's a little bit of a gray area at North Wilkesboro and a very blue area at this track.
I'm glad we have you in the booth this week, Justin, because if there's ever a complicated rules situation we need explaining, I'm out of my depth. So I'm glad you're here this week, digging into the rule books. That's what we need.
Well, it's not just necessarily just the rules, but it's also how the iRacing side functions. It's harder at North Wilkesboro without a designated restart zone on the track, because it's 1987 where there wasn't restart zones. Charlotte, it's had restart zones for plenty years now.
Yeah, I think, can we see them on the wall? No, they've gotten rid of the restart zone formation on the wall, but there it is on the quad oval, rather, on the inside.
It is on the wall. It is on the outside.
I must be blind.
Either way, it should be intriguing how this plays out now. We still have 35 minutes on the clock. That's about a 79 lap estimate. You're still talking potentially, depending on how many laps we turn here, and possibly drivers thinking about fuel if we go green the rest of the way. That's the key, if we go green.
Yeah, that's always the key in these races. That was what we talked about a lot at Darlington a couple of weeks ago. There were some drivers who went off strategy, and with the amount of cautions we've been getting this season, it's always a very, very risky maneuver, we can say that much, to come in when none of the rest of the field does, because the long green flag runs have not come often in the series, we can say that much. It is meant to be a little bit of a developmental series. A lot of drivers getting their feet wet on ovals for the first time, or at least getting their feet wet in league racing for the first time. So there's been some argy-bargy, a little bit of tripping over each other, but that's all in the learning process here. And hopefully we can have a good run here in the last 34 minutes of the season. It looks very similar to the initial start here, with the brothers Karakoff on the front row, Pennington Loving on row number 2, and then Dalton Geyer, who actually got by his teammate, start alongside Pierre-Luc Ryu on row number 3 here. The iRacing sedan pace car prepares to pull off onto Charlotte's pit road, and hopefully we have a slightly less controversial restart this time. Brett Karakoff takes control of the field. Wait for it, Brett. Wait for it. Wait for it. You're not ready to go just yet. He's waiting for the white line, and there he goes. We're back green at Charlotte, officially this time.
Waited all the way to the end of the restart box just to make sure there. But this is exactly what the Caracoles have an advantage of, being able to work together in those RBM trucks 1-2 while everyone else holds each other up and loses time fighting side by side like this.
Steve Loving and CM Pennington. Loving won a race this season, added to his PRL total. CM Pennington is still searching for yet another win, or his first win, I believe. But recently he's had a great run of speed with some coaching from Abner Acosta. But we look deeper in the field right now to Robert Goff in the midfield, trying to survive off turn 4 this time. And this time around, we are clean for a whole lap as he watches Alan Dice up ahead of him trying to carve his way forward.
You can already see just trying to figure out where's the best line to go. Keep in mind, most of the drivers in terms of this race needing to save it a little bit, even when it's near full throttle like a racetrack like this. If you miss that blue line, it can cost you so much on tire wear. Those drivers even making the passes on the middle line are going to start sliding back eventually in about 5-10 laps.
And there was already a little bit of a slide from Robert Goff there, and he gets into the wall off of turn 4 as well. He is not having a fun time of things around Charlotte at the moment, trying to recover as Brendel and Saint-Germain up there go almost side by side. Brendel has to back out of that. There's racing for every position of the field, and look at that driver in the background. That's Dallas Sullivan, who had damage in that initial caution. He's trying to recover, and he's trying to break his way through the back of the field.
That's not going to be easy to try and do either, though. That's huge amount of damage on the right side. Likely going to affect him long run because that brings you down on straight line speed by at least 2-3 miles an hour and makes the second he pulls out of the draft, he's a sitting duck aerodynamically.
Sit behind Garrett Austin there, tried to go for the move around the outside, but just couldn't get the momentum going here. That's his teammate, by the way, or it's not his teammate, rather. It's a Regenboog Motorsports truck of Garrett Austin up there. Dallas Sullivan for Loaded Dice Racing, two very rivalrous teams. So they're going to race pretty hard for this position as both of them try to take care of Robert Goff. There he goes off turn 4. Can Dallas Sullivan stay alongside him? Or is that damage going to be the sitting duckitude that Justin talked about? He's going to stick to the inside. He's going to try and go for the move again.
Yeah, I can already see Goff really struggling to get the truck to stay where he wants it to go. A lot of bobbling amongst the lines I've noticed here tonight. But this is the perfect example. Even with the better exit, just does not have the same tempo to be able to get fully clear until the next corner to be able to go the shorter distance around. It's going to be a struggle the rest of the night for the 46 truck.
Side by side behind them as well, you saw Stacy Hunter on another recovery drive, and Colton Easterday not necessarily on a recovery drive, but he did have a bad qualifying. I don't think he's got much practice in this week, and he's on a survival drive right now, just trying to end his season on a high. Unfortunately, the bad luck has struck him more often than it hasn't this season, just like it did last season. But he did get his great top 10 a little bit earlier in the season. Got a great result at Talladega, if I'm remembering correctly, and he's en route to hopefully finish this race as well. We see his face there in his setup. Justin noticed that that little button box to his left there, to our right. That's his push-to-talk, so he's not going to be able to use it right now, but he has to take his hand off the wheel to use the push-to-talk, and that's always terrifying.
Not easy to do when you're traveling at 180 plus miles an hour around the racetrack, to say the very least.
Not at all.
Can say when it comes to Easterday, he did hit the wall in qualifying on his second lap. That's what put him so far behind in the running order. The thing he's also dealing with, damage running in the back bumper, seems to be struggling right now in the short run because of that. We'll have to see if he's able to find anything long run because of how bad the back damage is on the bumper.
See him just wrestling with the wheel there, and I do want to give one final shout out to Colton Easterday's truck because we've been seeing it all season. It's got a Comic Sans number. I encouraged him to do that because I thought it would be funny and I thought it looked interesting. And I'm glad he listened to me because that is a beautiful truck, and I think more trucks should have Comic Sans numbers on them. Do you agree, Justin?
Oh, one truck is in the wall, though. The 312, the one who I like the design of up in the fence. Austin Hunter. What would the throwback look tonight? And that is the second time Austin Hunter's been in the wall, and that truck significantly has ripped the right side fenders off.
I think we're just not allowed to like how paint schemes look because that just curses the drivers.
Yeah, throwback to the early 2000s with a certain beverage paint scheme. But for Austin Hunter, just amongst those, really try that high side. And the thing is, if you don't find that right mark, you end up slamming the wall or getting yourself really binded up and tight. We're seeing already a couple drivers having that same situation. After all, You can run the safer barrier like Austin Hunter's doing, but it takes a lot of confidence in as well. How long do the tires hold up long term is the bigger question, 1 and 2 in particular.
Austin Hunter, always a friend to RaceSpot, always giving us his Zoom, always giving us an interview when things go wrong. So we do like to see Austin Hunter have some success, and we do like to see a little bit of numerology here, Justin. What are the chances that we've got a 311 and a 312 truck, and they're both side by side, or at least they were for a moment? Hunter does finally get by Nicholas Saint-Germain, but how about that? That's the most unlikely numerology you'll ever see.
The thing is, though, Hunter, even with that contact of the wall, kind of showing some awareness on what lines he needs to be taking here, because he could have just committed back to the outside line, trying to make it rip around. Instead, he used that banking as a ramp once he cleared that pass down the backstretch, went to the inside, took that momentum to complete the next sequence of corners. Despite the damage, seems to have at least the race lines down. Might get him at least towards the top 10 by the end of the run, depending on how that truck holds up after 30 laps.
He's lucky that ahead of him there's been some drivers falling down the order. There's been some drivers moving their way up in the order. Alan Dice has absolutely been moving his way up in the order after not being disallowed from qualifying this week, actually, but just not being able to get a qualifying lap in. He started very deep in the field, and the driver who has won a race this season, who came close to winning the championship last season, was in contention. He is very much driving his way forward now. He's up into unlucky 13th for the moment, and critically, I don't see any damage on that truck. That looks like a completely clean truck to me.
A very clean truck so far for the 5 machine. Was one of those who didn't qualify, keep in mind, but it's important to note, was amongst those who put in a lot of practice laps, didn't get up towards the top of the board. But here's the interesting thing. Again, when it comes to the trucks, it's not necessarily who's the best at being able to carry momentum for 10 laps and then trying to plant the truck around the rest of the run. It's about how consistent you are long run. And so far tonight, the 5 amongst those fairly consistent on the marks, and the 31.6s, that is not as quick as the leaders, but it's quicker than half the field in front of them.
Indeed, speaking of the leaders, Matthew Karikoff takes the lead from his brother Brett. We've got a new leader for the first time tonight. It's still a Karikoff, but it's a different one. Only about 10 minutes into this run since the green flag dropped in that second restart. And Brett Karikoff, maybe he doesn't have the long run speed, and that would be a very, very new thing to say. He's had long run speed all season long, but for now, his brother seems to have the better of him.
We'll see.
Or is he fuel saving? I just thought of that. Could he be fuel saving if he needs to the end? Or did he hit the wall? We may get our answer here.
Yeah, I think already way up the racetrack, opening up that door for an opportunity to make the switch. But it was right here, I think, that forced the issue. Way up the track, forced them out of the gas, because if you don't start to lift by that point, you're likely going to slam it at the edge of the safer barrier, destroy the right front fender. So instead, just decided, you know what? Matthew, go right on ahead, because he had already showed the nose in the first place. Now, the fights are on in the heart of the pack from Hilton and company. Hilton, amongst those, trying to pass some of those who've been getting really squirrely out of the corners.
Crazy little bunch here. Baron Hilton won his first race in the PRL this season, actually, back at Gateway in this series. Started on pole and never looked back. For a driver who's been in the PRL for many, many seasons, it was a great accomplishment for him. He's still searching for number 2, and he's searching to get by Pierre-Luc Ryu as well. But that NASCAR Motorsports truck holding tough on the outside, and behind both of them, Dalton Geyer can't really figure out where to go. He wants to follow Hilton, he wants to follow Ryu, and neither of them are seemingly going anywhere.
Yeah, the thing is, though, the bottom line is starting to become very prevalent. It's more so what Geyer's doing, because Geyer is absolutely charging these corners. I'm not sure if he's overdriving it, or it's just how much Hilton is underdriving some of these entries, trying to save the tires here. That could be a very dangerous recipe for disaster and end up creating a very messy situation. I'm not saying that just because it's an applesauce truck in front.
Getting messy with the applesauce, just like me in the middle school cafeteria. But Dalton Geyer here, critically, Justin. Last night, I saw Dalton Geyer in the Precision Racing League Discord server. He was getting coached by Precision Racing League driver coach and tire wizard of the PRL NASCAR series, Abner Acosta. So if he is charging the corners, if he is using up the tires, that would be a shock, because that would mean he wasn't listening to Abner's advice. But they're side by side for P2 right now. This is going to make Matt Karikoff very happy, because his brother is too busy battling with Steve Loving for second.
This has lost them a ton of time already, about nearly a second and a half just from one side by side. Again, gets to the emphasizing point. You want to get single filed out, get the pass done quickly. If you fight and scrap, it holds you up to half a second a lap around this racetrack. But getting back to that exact point you were trying to make around Charlotte, in terms of getting coaching and getting yourself learning the lines, it's a person-to-person basis, right? Where you have some who take several weeks or several months to get things sorted, several attempts, or some who pick it up like the snap of a finger and they immediately understand it. It's a person-to-person basis, and sometimes it can take some time to break old habits.
What do they say? Old habits die hard. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. I'm sure I'll find some way to mix those metaphors before the end of the tonight here. But Dalton Geyer stays P7. We tune back into Austin Hunter deeper in the field right now. Side by side with his old buddy CM Pennington for a moment. Hunter gets by. He's going to stick into P11. And poor old CM Punk Pennington started in third, his best qualifying of the season, if I remember correctly. And unfortunately, the race pace hasn't been there, but he's found qualifying pace this season, and that's at least one accomplishment. And he can hang his head on that and work more on the race pace, I think, over the season break.
I think that's something you have to emphasize a lot about because, again, long run pace wins you races. Having track position and long run pace absolutely is helpful. That's a little bit of a squeeze. I don't think Hunter intended on that.
I don't think he did. Got a little bit squeezy there on Pierre-Luc Ryu. Has to back out of things. That momentum death for Ryu is going to let Panzarella get to his inside. And Ryu's teammate as well, Dominic Brodeur, on the scene. Isn't going to be able to get to the inside there, but those two almost identical looking trucks of Ryu and Brodeur, of NASCAR and Discarl Motorsports, two of our favorite team names. Both of them getting into some amounts of trouble here as Ryu tries to steal that position back from Panzarella, and yes, he does indeed.
Yeah, good job for Ryu to get the pass back. He is dealing with damage there. That's why there was such that bit of aggression, at least trying to make the move with some of that damage now coming long-term factors here. It's interesting to note already, we're estimating about 75 laps. It's going to be intriguing if we stay green. When do drivers elect to pit? Because for a lot of these drivers, they're about 20 laps away from the window of when they need to come down for fuel, including the caution.
So there's no way you can go 35 minutes on fuel, right, Justin?
That's correct. In terms of the lap distance, think of it this way. Your maximum fuel mileage at Charlotte is up to 48 to 50 laps. The estimate is 75. Only 3 drivers topped off during that first caution of the race for fuel. So that's going to be something to keep in mind as there is something going on the front stretch. I think there's a truck now in the pit in Saint-Germain, and another has just had the tow in Garrett Austin.
Big trouble there, and that is not going to make those two drivers happy. No caution comes out for that. They're going to be done for the day. We'll get to replay that when we can, but for now, Palumbo and Baron Hilton getting all sorts of crazy through the quad oval. Palumbo trying to find a way by Baron Hilton, but he is seeing a very, very wide watermelon in front of him. Can't get by that Tropicana truck, and he can't get to the inside coming into turn 3, or can he? He's got the run, and now Palumbo finally gets to the inside.
Lots of discussion, and there's a pit party, in fact, on the inside line, so the pit window opening, and this is an interesting call here, because now the drivers are trying to work this to where they go to the end from here, looking like they're banking on it staying green.
The brothers Karakov in, Steve Loving in as well, and that's the entirety of the top 3 coordinating here to come in as they fight side by side in the bottom of your screen for the lead. Patrick Cowgill versus Nicholas Starling. It's a race off a pit road here. Everybody makes their box nice and easy. It'd be 4 tires and fuel for all 3 of these trucks, but this is a risk for the top 3 in the race because they're going to go a lap down here. You see Cowgill going by right now.
Yeah, you can see already the separation building up with the struggles. Long run for the 57 machine, but everyone off and away fairly clean on the stop. No major speeding penalties. Yeah, but Loving indeed, you're right, had that better exit in that run, and that's why entry and exit so critical. 4/10 gained in the lane.
Steve Loving around the outside of Matt Karakov on pit exit there. He caught him napping absolutely there. But now all 3 of those trucks will have fresher tires. Look for them to burst their way through the field. But suddenly a dominant lead for Matthew Karakov, 1.5 seconds. It's a negative lead now. He's going to be in second once things shake out, if they do shake out indeed, because with the craziness they're getting up to up front here, I'm not counting out another caution in this race as Patrick Cowgill and Starling fight.
A lot of drivers calling for their stops scattered about right now. Hunter, Cowgill, several others over the radio calling for stops here. The interesting note when it comes to Starling in the midst of all this, he was involved in that crash on lap 1. He was the one who ended up getting the back end of some of the checkups there and still survived with minimal damage. And now he's back up at the front of the race lead, somehow surviving with nose damage.
We got some Whataback unity on pit road here. Cowgill and Hunter at the same time. I think Cowgill got it slowed down, even with a little bit of a wary moment coming into the box. And he misses his stall. Patrick Cowgill misses his pit stall. Has to back up for a little bit. That's going to lose him some precious seconds. Those are the mistakes you can't make in green flag pit stops.
Yeah, not what you want to have happen, because you can already see at least a few seconds lost from that. It's going to be at least a 3-4 second time loss because of the issues trying to find his way back into the box, be able to go up on those jacks. It is an interesting thing to note, though, based on the deltas. Everybody doing well. All Vergao amongst those who had issues with a 59-second stop. Everyone else just simply following the same strategy. It's going to be intriguing, though, where these drivers going long are going to play out, and if they can close up in time in 25 laps, that's a 1 second a lap difference of fall-off.
A little bit of fan service here from our producer, Hugo Luis. We've got some Richard Pruitt fan club members in the chat here, encouraging him on his run here. Tell him he's moving up. And he is moving up indeed, as you do see those fresh tire pitters going around him. But Richard Pruitt does love to go off strategy in that Frito-Lay Pepsi truck. And he is doing exactly the same thing for his third sponsor, Melendez Online Digital Consulting. He's going to go for as long as humanly possible and hope a caution comes out.
And here's the thing, he's the first of those who topped off during the caution on lap 1. So he can go the furthest out of anybody within the final 20 laps possibly. In fact, might be able to get to 55 laps. So it's just, again, if he gets a caution, he's in a really good spot, because he'd be the last of those to pit. But the top part is, how long is he willing to stretch it? He's pitting, he just called it.
Richard Pruitt not going for as long as he normally does. Here he comes. We see him turning in there on what I believe is a Logitech G29. I believe me and Richard Pruitt are wheel buddies in that way. He does get it slowed down. Maybe a little bit conservative, but safe either way, and he's on pit road.
Very conservative, because here's the thing. Normally you turn off of turn 4. I've noticed a few drivers very carefully have said, you know what, let's do a turn 3 apron. Here's the thing, it's a 5-second difference you're throwing away by pitting where he just pit.
On the jacks, 4 tires and fuel for Richard Pruitt. There he goes. Only a couple drivers who haven't taken down pit road yet. CM Pennington staying out, Dallas Sullivan staying out, and Dylan Schmidt staying out. But it's actually come to the point where Loving, Karikoff, and the other Karikoff have actually unlapped themselves on CM Pennington. So even if caution doesn't come out, or even if caution does come out, rather, Pennington wouldn't come out in the lead, but he would still come out ahead of all of those drivers who pitted after the waiver round. And that is a much better position than he was in. But he is going to come down pit road this time. His off strategy's done. His overcut is done. And Pennington's on pit road.
Could have went a little bit quicker up to the commitment cone there, but for the most part, nicely done. That leaves only Sullivan and Schmidt as the last drivers yet to pit. Schmidt is a teammate, might be coming down soon. Sullivan amongst those also had a top-off strategy, having to get the repairs done. Still about 14 minutes of the clock, though. That is still at least half a run these drivers have to consider on a tire management.
You want a fun tire wear fact here, Justin?
I'm curious on what this fact is going to be now.
Dylan Schmidt's last lap, 32.8. Steve Loving's last lap, 30.8. The leaders on those fresh tires, or the eventual leaders on those fresh tires, are 2 seconds faster than these two guys have stayed out. That is some extreme tire wear, and even if Sullivan and Schmidt stay out here for 6 more laps, they're going to get passed anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if this is even going to hold up a 9 seconds difference right now, 11 seconds rather. And I have noticed one thing, Schmidt is 0.3 slower than what you just said for Dallas Sullivan.
Oh dear, it gets worse.
So, Yeah, for the most part, I think right now they're just hoping anything happens, because they can go another 10, 15 laps at best when it comes to Sullivan. Maybe 8 more for Dylan Schmidt. Here's the problem. Schmidt is already being swarmed by fresh tire traffic. He is basically a chicane on the racetrack. No offense to him, but that's how big the fall-off is.
And that's a beautiful truck, by the way. Going with the American flag scheme at Charlotte, of course, that's a normal thing. But I'm a big fan of that white color. He's done something with the spec map there, and he almost takes CM Pennington with him as he pulls down pit road. That beautiful eggshell white almost got a little bit screwed up by Pennington there, but he does get it slowed down, and Dylan Schmidt's on pit road finally.
That was his teammate, CM Pennington, indeed.
Yeah.
I think that was more so just not realizing there was a pit call, because there was a call I heard on the radio from Schmidt down the backstretch. I think Pennington just missed it.
Almost disaster. They get away with it. No damage on that truck, but once again, Dylan Schmidt, very well done in those spec maps. It's a beautiful truck, but here's the fight for what will become the lead once Dallas Sullivan comes down pit road. Steve Loving versus Matthew Karakoff. It's a battle we haven't seen all race long, because Matthew Karakoff, once he took the lead, he streaked away with it. Loving and Brett Karakoff, I have to be specific, battled for second. That let Matt drive off into the lead, and for the first time now, Steve Loving actually gets to show his race pace and see if he can hold on to the lead of this race.
Yeah, curious again. The thing is, though, Loving has the clean air advantage, first of all. That's going to be the major part. Throwing equal tires, that's not going to be too helpful. If there's a little bit of a tire difference, maybe a little bit more convincing. But Loving's been in the conversation all race. He saved a lot of the early going after the early fights. Now, everyone's in push mode if they want to try and get around him. So Loving's got a huge advantage defensively to try and make this work.
It's two drivers who have won one singular race this season. Steve Loving has double that overall in the PRL. He's got 2 wins, but still, it's 2 drivers early in their PRL careers compared to a lot of drivers putting themselves on the scene and proving themselves to be very, very quick NASCAR-wise. We might see both of these guys moving up into the Xfinity Series next season, but for now, they're going to battle it out one last time here. And I honestly couldn't tell you who's going to come out on top. I think my money is on Matt Karakoff, Justin, because he did show us that long run speed last time, but Steve Loving is always a tough customer to pass, especially around these intermediate tracks. He's very aggressive.
Indeed, but the thing is, being aggressive can be a positive and a negative. A positive in that you're able to pass by drivers quickly, have the confidence to do so, especially on the short run. But if you're aggressive on a track like this, it tends to also mean you might potentially be aggressive on your tires, and that's where you end up seeing drivers have a slide through the pack, like we've seen several do tonight, some of the drivers by 10 plus spots. And then you have the inverse of that, where you have someone not aggressive at the start, like Alan Dice, who's already up to 7th from 25th.
Bad news in Garrett Austin land, unfortunately. That wasn't an incident that made him tow back to pit lane. He tells us in our YouTube chat that his power went out. Bad luck. Oh dear, those are the worst ones. When it's an equipment failure in your own sim, that's one thing, but when the power goes out as a whole, when it's the electricity company that gets you, when it's lightning that gets you, that's the worst thing. So poor old Garrett Austin, but I know we'll see him back next season. He's had some great runs this season, and hopefully he'll have more consistent power in the coming weeks, because I don't want to see anybody kicked out like that.
Yeah, I will say in our series, lately we've had someone who's in that situation to the point where several members have tried to help them with their computer situation because of how bad it can be. The reason I mention how bad it could be in that case, it's someone who's led the race every time they've had to disconnect from the race lead 4 times this season, Joey. So you don't want that to happen to anybody.
Look at that in the background of your screen. Nicholas Starling, Alan Dice, and Dalton Geyer. They have been absolutely throwing haymakers at each other here. All of them on fresher tires than the leaders, remember. Nicholas Starling came in 7 laps later than your race leaders. Dice came in 6 laps later. And Dalton Geyer came in 4 laps later. So all of them are on fresher tires. And they're actually catching. Nicholas Starling is within touching distance of Brett Karakoff now. And he's on 7-lap fresher tires. The battle for 3rd suddenly rages on and gets much more interesting.
Yeah, Dice, along with Starling, might be in decent spots here. I don't know if they're going to get up to the leaders. They're too far back, I think, even by the time the equalization point hits. with how many lap minutes to go there on the clock. Possibly they might get within 2 seconds. But right now, when it comes to them, they could absolutely drive themselves all the way past Geyer at minimum, get close to Brett. If that passed by Brett Caracol, then it's who knows from there with how the pace is going. There they go. There's Caracol, who has fallen off a rock. This is a huge opportunity. I think I'm actually a little surprised how close they are.
Does Brett Caracol have damage? I don't remember him getting into the wall, but this is bizarre. I don't think we've seen him be this slow once all season. I'm at a loss for words. Alan Dice is going to get by him as well.
I think it's just the tires as an air pit stop. That's Dallas Sullivan. Sullivan no longer the race leader as a result here. And now it gets interesting because Loving's now back in control of this field.
Final taker on pit road. The aggression, the off strategy. Sullivan had to do it after getting taken out or getting involved in an incident on lap 1 at least, going to the back of the field. You had to throw everything in the table, but unfortunately, just like overdone spaghetti or underdone spaghetti, none of it stuck to the wall. So Dallas Sullivan all the way to the back of the field, and now we see the official order now. Dalton Geyer officially in 6th, Hunter, Cowgill, and a lap down Ryu battling in this little quartet here, this little trio. Austin Hunter tries to break back into the top 6, maybe even the top 5 with Karakov's fall off.
That's been a surprising part of this race today. Austin Hunter has impressed me with how he's been able to handle the lines. He's been one of the few able to make the outside work long term with how difficult it can be, making passes low and high. Hunter's done a really good job on his recovery since slamming the wall twice and having to gain back all the spots twice already from it.
Austin Hunter squeezing into a barely Austin Hunter-shaped hole there to the outside of Dalton Geyer. Not able to get Geyer, but they are both able to get Steve Loving. And Nicholas Starling has actually made the pass for second as these guys have been battling, Justin. Things are going crazy up front, and suddenly, Nicholas Starling might just be the favorite for this win.
This is absolutely surprising, the 7-lap difference. Normally, you're not this close, Joey, because of the fact that you have the fresher tire undercut call, gaining you 7+ seconds. They've just mowed down this gap like ease because they're half a second quicker. Normally, this does not happen this quick.
They're side by side everywhere in the field. What a way to end the season in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series here. And Charlotte Motor Speedway once again proving itself to be a fantastic racetrack. Austin Hunter gets by Dalton Geyer there. And the lead side by side, Steve Loving and Nicholas Starling. Starling's finally got there through the quad oval. Didn't lead at the line, but he's going to lead through turn 1. Nicholas Starling takes the lead.
This is absolutely incredible. And I had to double check if the timing was right because they were 4 seconds back 5 minutes ago. That's just how much time they've been able to pick up. Fresher tire difference or not, you're talking about drivers that possibly were saving and just able to keep close enough to be able to make this work. But it leads to the question, what was everyone else doing who went for the earlier pit call to be this too close to those on the fresh tires to allow this to happen?
This is absolutely crazy. Alan Dice on the secondary strategy as well gets by Steve Loving. So it is 1-2 for drivers who came in 7 laps later than our 3 race leaders. The strategy's fallen on its head for Steve Loving, who wanted win number 2 to close out the season. He's going to be disappointed, and even more disappointing for Matt Karakoff in 4th place. That's the 2nd season in a row where he started on the front row, looked to be in competition for the win, and for one reason or another, it's all fallen apart. It looked like he was going to come back from the equipment failure he had from the lead last year, but he's going to need a lot of luck here to get up there from 4th.
Yeah, at the very least, I think Hunter's in line if he can find a little bit more pace before they start equaling out these tires here to get passed by Caracol and Loving. But for Alan Dice, it's not done yet. Here's the thing. Starling's got damage. Dice does not. Dice has a massive advantage here with how clean the truck is in speed.
Alan Dice is the fastest truck on track right now, a 10th faster than Starling on that previous lap. And only a 10th between them right now. Nicholas Starling, is he a sitting duck? Well, he's going to try and make himself the widest duck in history. Can Nicholas Starling hang on in that dark black truck? He's a little bit like the Knight Rider. And in the night, he's got 4 more minutes to hold back Alan Dice.
Starling might need a caution here to try and hold on here. Dice, much quicker this long term, much more comfortable this long term. So look very consistent in that Infinite for Gaming machine. Now just needs to pick his spots here. Lots of dirty air to deal with. That's the thing that's really hampering him here. That's the tough part.
Yeah, it looks like he's hitting a bubble right now. He got up to the back of Starling, about 1.5 seconds back, but he is having a very, very tough time of passing him. It almost looks like a street stock race at Charlotte where he just can't get the run. He's got the run this time off of turn 4, drives it up high. Can he get to the outside of Starling? He can't. Starling blocks it off. He's not going to block through the quad oval. Dice rather, is going to try and get around the outside into turn 1. The bottom for Starling, the top for Dice. The shorter run seems to be working for Starling, but Dice is hanging tough.
Based on the time, might get 6-7 laps to try and deal this out. Dice has the better momentum on the outside.
Shorter run for Starling, but less damage for Dice. Is it going to even out here through turns 3 and 4? You almost lose Nicholas Starling in the night here on the racetrack. He's going to continue to lead at the line, but he has to hold off a charging Alan Dice here into turn 1 once more. Dice got a great run out of here last time around, and he's even further alongside this time. Off of turn 2, Dice chops down a little bit, gets the run, but they're still stuck side by side.
Lots of space being given. Dice just trying to give the pinch down to Starling through these exits.
And look at Austin Hunter a little bit further back as they're side by side. You'll probably see Austin just in the back of your screen. He's about to get by Steve Loving. If these guys continue to run side by side like this, does Austin Hunter have enough time to catch here and make himself a factor in this win? I'm not sure if he does, but this is fantastic racing up front and incredibly respectful racing by both of these drivers, searching for one more win to end the season. There's Hunter in the background to the outside of Steve Loving. Sorry, Justin, but he's up to third. Does he have the time to catch Dyson Starling now that he's in clean air?
Dice a lot of throttle, trying to keep his foot in it. Does not want to save the tires now, just trying to plow around it outside.
He's got the run now off of turn 4. He actually leads a lap for the first time, but can Starling fight back on the bottom? Is there enough tire life left in that 7 truck? Or is Alan Dice going to be able to get him at the line? Off of turn 2 here. Dice not quite going to lead. He's going to get the momentum down the back straight. Starling's going to hold with him. They're still stuck side by side. It's almost like a Talladega race. It's going to be a question of who leads at the line, I think. But through turns 3 and 4, Dice is a great run on the outside, but again, he's wide up on the top. Starling's going to try and stick with him through the quad oval here. He can't do it. Can he get back to the outside? Can Starling steal the Dice line and make it work? Dice blocks him.
It's not over yet, though. Still another chance. Matthew Kirikov, technical issue off the racetrack.
No.
This could get interesting because now he's got the pole. Can he do anything with the damage on the truck?
Depending on the timing, it could be 1 lap or 2 laps to go at the line. Starling was incredible on defense, but can he do anything on offense here? Here comes Alan Dice to the line. It's going to be 2 laps to go. It comes within a matter of seconds here, and Starling is running out of time to fight back. Dice goes back down to the bottom. Starling's going to follow him here and try and get a run off of turn 2. He's got a great run through 1 and 2. Can he do anything with the draft here into turn 3 for the penultimate time?
That lap truck in Dallas Sullivan might be a bit of a factor here, depending on when Sullivan reaches. Might be the best chance for Starling to follow.
1 more time around of the PRL NASCAR Truck Series this season. 1.5 more miles to go. Alan Dice leads us to the white flag, but can Nicholas Starling do anything here? The tires have fallen off more, but the Knight Rider in the number 7 is going to throw everything he can at Alan Dice here. It's a great run through turns 1 and 2. Is it great enough? Can he peek to the inside? Can he sneak to the inside of Alan Dice? He's going to try to. It's going to give him a little bit of a push down the back straight, but Starling's not able to get to the inside of Alan Dice unless there's a mistake. Off of turn 4 here, Dice is high. Starling chases him up the road. It's going to be a photo finish to the line.
Oh!
Starling turns Dice through the quad oval. Nicholas Starling wins at Charlotte. But the question is, will the results stay with what happened coming to the line?
Oh my goodness, Starling, I cannot believe he just tried to pull that.
I don't
What a
know if it was
finish.
deliberate. I think it was very, very close quarters there coming to the line. We're going to have to take a replay of that, but what a dramatic way to end the race. And what a dramatic way to end the season. Starling wins. My voice is cracking. This is insane.
Yeah, and Austin Hunter, the top 3 in the midst of all that. That was a stunning way to end it.
Here it is.
And this is Yeah.
Oh, that was not judged well.
Well, he definitely tried something. Let's put it that way. How Race Control views that something is the question.
Yeah, what a way to end the season. Nicholas Starling wins on the road, but we're going to have the lead driver stewards, I think, looking at that result there. I don't know if Starling would do that deliberately. He's been a clean driver this season, but that's above my pay grade to decide. For now, he is the winner on the road. It's his first win in the PRL. We'll see if it stays that way. Alan Dice comes home in second. Will it be the lead by the end of tonight or by the end of the week? We're not sure. One result we do know is that Austin Hunter finishes the season in the top 3. Fantastic run for him. And Dalton Geyer does use the coaching from Abner Acosta, not under an NDA, to finish in 4th. Steve Loving rounds out the top 5. Baron Hilton, P6 from the back, and Patrick Cowgill, P7. Brett Karakoff, your champion. Not a very exciting day for him. He comes home in P8. Then it's Hayden Palumbo and Stacey Hunter down to the end of the top 10. Dominic Brodeur, Zach Panzarella down to P12. Then Colton Easterday, perfect way to end his season, an unlucky 13th. Then Thomas Brendel, Richard Pruitt, Traver Pennington, Amacy Goff, and Dylan Schmidt down to the end of the top 20. 21st was Dallas Sullivan, went one lap down at the end of it all, as did Ryu, Adkins, and Goff. Oliver Goff, to be specific. And Matthew Karakoff, he is not going to be a fan of Charlotte Motor Speedway anymore. That's 2 seasons in a row where he's had some sort of technical failure that's taken him out of contention. And then Nicholas Saint-Germain finished 8 laps down, and the used truck lot was only 1 truck deep as Garrett Austin's power took him out, and that was him in 27th. But luckily, Justin, after an interesting finish to the race, we don't have our race winner, we don't have our second place finisher, but we have a non-controversial third place finisher right now. Austin Hunter, you finished 3rd on the road. It might become 2nd by the end of the night, but either way, it's a top 3. How does that feel?
Oh, it feels great. I honestly had very low expectations coming into this race, but those long runs where the tires really fall off and the truck gets tight, it's my kind of race, and it definitely came to me.
So next season, Austin, I got to talk to you about that already. Are you staying in the trucks? Are you moving back up to Xfinity? What's going to be the deal?
As of right now, I'm staying in the trucks, but it's to be determined. I might bump back up. As much as I love running these trucks, the iPacing gets a little tiring, but I want to make sure I have some good finishes too, so I don't know what I'm going to do yet.
Well, Austin, that's the end of the season, and I'm gonna get a tradition that I used in the GT3 race last night. If you could describe this season in one word, give it to us right now.
Horrific.
For Austin, that was certainly accurate, but thanks for joining us on RaceSpot all season long, Austin, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you, guys. Want to make sure I squeeze in. Thanks to Waterback and Established Traffic Control, and you guys over at RaceSpot, especially you, Joey, for doing all these races, and I appreciate you guys a lot.
Always a pleasure. Austin Hunter finishes in P3, and Justin, we do have our top 2. We're going to go in reverse order because we started with Austin, so first and foremost, you can talk to Alan Dice.
Well, Alan, that was a way to finish the race. What was your perspective on that wild finish?
Man, we were battling for the last 6 or 7 laps. I knew I could get him on the outside if I just stuck to it, but yeah, he told me he was trying to cross me. I was blocking that low run. I was going to give him the outside, and when he went to tuck in behind my bumper, it just wasn't clear yet. It was an honest mistake, I think. It's unfortunate for sure. It doesn't make it any less deflating, but I wanted to get this win really bad, this cool paint scheme, but it's all good. We'll come back and do it again.
It was a hard charge to the field here, too. It seemed like you were strong long run and on the strategy in particular with the fresh tires. What really played into your dividends, in your opinion, and your advantage tonight to have that pace long term?
Yeah, we were talking about what we were going to do for pit strategy, and when they started pitting, I said, let's go, another 7-8 laps and then pit in. We're going to have the tail end of this if we do it that way. We already had some long run speed. We were doing a little bit better job saving than the field in the first run, so we took that, and it obviously worked out. So we were able to come back up through and charge up, and we caught him relatively quick. It's just aggressively saving, just making sure we were fast at the end.
Well, tonight a big advantage in the top 5 of the point standings enter the evening. Going to be tight in terms of human loving believe on positioning towards now the end of this campaign. But your thoughts for next season? and when it comes to your respective camp?
Yeah, hopefully a little bit better luck in the next season. You know, I personally have had a lot of bad luck this season. So hopefully to come back next season and knock off a few wins. I think, you know, year-long points for the team are still looking good. I think Dallas and I are still looking pretty good as far as driver points for the year-long standing. So that's solid. So hopefully come back charging for the season 3 and keep on digging.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Alan.
Yep. Hey, want to give a quick shout out to my buddy Cedric. He's watching at home, so shout out to him.
Shout out Cedric.
Thanks, guys.
Alan Dice, P2, Justin, and Cedric, of course. He's not going to be very happy after what happened there. And let's talk to Cedric's new buddy here. Nick Starling is with us. Well, Nick Starling, you've won your first PRL race, but in a very interesting situation. Talk us through what happened.
Yeah, it's a shame because Alan's the teammate of mine, and we run like all kinds of other leagues, and God, it's so unfortunate. So we run 10 laps there side by side, and literally I'm just running the line as close as I can to make sure we don't get into each other and just run super clean. And I just basically told him, I was like, look, I'll take a P2 any day as long as, you know, you get the run. And I thought when he passed me, he was going to take off, and the next thing you know, he had a couple of slip ups, and we were coming on that last lap, and I was gaining. So coming out of 4, we were running side by side there, and I saw him inch up a little bit, so I was imagining he was going to come up to block me, and I thought I was clear of him to my left, so I was coming down as he was coming up a little bit, and I was simply just going to do a crossover and go underneath him. And turns out I was not clear, and his bumper was there, or his quarter panel was there, and looks like I definitely spun him. But yeah, Alan knows I wouldn't ever do him like that, but thought I was clear for a crossover and definitely wasn't. So it's kind of a shame. I'd hate to win like that, and especially my first win in PRL. So we'll have to win another one a different way for sure.
Indeed. We'll see you next season. I think we knew tonight wasn't deliberate, but either way, a win's a win, and hopefully we'll see you back next season. Nick Starling does get his first win in the PRL. Definitely apologetic towards Alan Dice. Before we get into qualifying in Xfinity, I do just want to talk to one more driver here, and it's the most important driver in the field. It was only an 8th place finish here tonight, but officially, Mr. Brett Karakoff, you are the PRL NASCAR Truck Series champion this season.
Thank you so much.
So it was a dominant season for you, 3 wins in 10 races. It seemed like it was your championship from COTA at the very beginning. How much can you take into potentially the Xfinity Series next season with all the confidence you've built up this season?
Yeah, I'm gonna do another stint in the Truck Series, try to get my feet under me and learn how to save some tires. But yeah, it's been a fun season. I'm really in this to race with Matt, my brother. That was the whole point of all this.
Well, we were glad to see both of you guys racing with each other, and I guess we'll see you back in the trucks next season, Brett. See if you can go 2 for 2.
Absolutely. And hey, I just real quick want to thank family and friends watching, and want to thank Charles Sumner for putting it on. He's dealt with a lot this season, so I appreciate it, and I appreciate y'all guys showing it.
Always a pleasure. Brett Karakoff, we call him the basement boy. He's got the most beautiful basement in the world, and that's good to know that we'll be seeing even more of that in the Truck Series next season. We'll be seeing all of his knickknacks down there. But for now, Justin, that is the Truck Series done for this season. And as qualifying is underway in the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series, it's time to go Xfinity racing for the final time this season. Not much different, as we only add 10 more minutes to the race counter, and we will go racing one more time at Charlotte here. It's been almost an identical schedule so far. Not much to talk about there, but what we do have to talk about is Mr. Abner Acosta right now. We talked about him, coaching some drivers in the Truck Series. Now he's got to do his own thing. Not going to be able to win the championship. He's out of contention. 45 points behind Richard Regan Jr. has just been absolutely sublime this season. But there are many, many interesting battles to be talked about deeper in the field. Jeff Evans versus Bradley Holly. They're separated by 1 point. Cervantes and Sink separated by 3. White, Lane, Zemke, and Knight down to the end of the top 10. So very interesting stuff in there. The team's championship is also more or less clinched. 51 points separate Regan Vogue Motorsports and Whataback Overdrive. That is not going to come down most likely unless things go absolutely crazy in this race. Precision Racing Esports 111 round out the top 3, and then it's Whataback, Bull Creek, Riding Shotgun, Car Ramrod, and YS, and all sorts of combinations there down to the end of the top 10. But very interestingly here in qualifying, Justin, It's Abner Acosta and Elliott White 1 and 2. That's not really a surprise for Precision Racing Esports. But Richard Regan Jr. currently sits, well, he's on pole. I was about to say he was a little bit deeper in the field, but he was just setting up for lap number 2. And Richard Regan Jr. beats Abner Acosta to pole again. He's P1.
Yeah, the former teammates battling hard up at the top of the field when it comes to qualifying here. This is you say it's going to be similar, but I argue it's very different on how this racetrack races for the Xfinity Series cars in the daytime versus trucks at the night. The grip level's not so high as we expected with it being daytime. It is very hot on this racetrack. We'll get to that in a moment. But also when it comes to tonight, it's not so easy to run side by side like we've seen. It's not so easy to be able to make the passes on the tires. You have to be very careful with this car too, with the downforce levels, because you have so much more downforce in the trucks. So it's very, very easy to burn your right front tire off and slam the wall by turn 4 exit, or spin the car around because you burned up that right rear tire trying to wheel it around this racetrack and slip and slide it by going too deep.
Jim Westerfield across the line picks up 7/10 on that last lap. Doesn't pick up any positions, though. It's a 22-car field in the Xfinity Series tonight. It's a bigger field than we've seen in some previous weeks. But at the head of it, surprise, surprise, it is who else but the pole master this season. It's Mr. Richard Regan Jr. on pole for the 50th time in the Precision Racing League. He starts alongside Bradley Holly on the first row. Holly trying to return to victory lane finally for the first time all season. Acosta and Sink start on row number 2, and Elliott White in the very pink car starts alongside Adam Zemke in the 57. Then P7 was Jeff Evans, starts alongside his dad, Doug Evans. It's all Evans on row number 4, and Reese Bogue starts P9 with the throwback to his dad's modified, alongside Daniel Knight, who was the top driver in practice. Then it's Danny Cervantes and Princess Matt Gagnon on row number 6. Unlucky 13th went to Mike Knight, who starts alongside the other Knight Rider car of Jacob Emery. Colton Lane starts alongside Jim Westerfield, Jeremy Bailey, and Nicholas Hunter on row number 9, the second of the Hunters, by the way. Chris Justice, last driver to set a qualifying lap time. I don't think that was representative. He was off the pace, but I think he may have gotten into the wall. There's 3 more drivers at the tail of the field. Mark Kalin, Doyle Lawrence, and Terry Radford, Race Spot's own, not setting any laps in qualifying. All 3 of them were allowed to qualify this week. But for one reason or another, them 3 decided, you know what, we're going to start at the back of this field and see what we can do from there.
Gonna be intrigued to see how it plays out here. Bradley Holly, his confidence levels when we asked him how does he feel about tonight's Xfinity Series race, very low was kind of the mindset he gave earlier tonight. Surprising when you hear that from one of the winningest drivers in PRL history. But I'm going to be curious to how that plays out. You have a lot of drivers with a lot of speed up towards the front, and one driver with the red room.
There he is, the big man, and every time Arjuna's in the booth, Justin, he's very, very happy about Brad's Star Wars Legos. Are you a Star Wars guy? Because I'm not, and we need some representation in this booth.
I'm a Lego guy, but I haven't seen a Star Wars movie in 10 years.
I mean, that's better than me. I haven't seen a Star Wars movie in 22 years.
How old are you again?
The number I just said.
Oh.
Yeah,
I feel old.
Brad's not happy about that when I say that. I haven't seen any of the movies, and honestly, it might be too late to even start. But they've got enough fans. I think Bradley Holly can represent them enough, and he's trying to represent himself on the front row here in that almost throwback paint scheme, but more of a Memorial Day paint scheme with the old fighter jet look. He's had some success in cars like that in the past, and he's trying to go for redemption here. This has been the Richard Regan Jr. season. It was the Richard Regan Jr. season last season as well. It was the Abner Acosta and Elliott White season, to be more specific, but Bradley Holly had won a race in every single season of the PRL on Wednesday nights before this season, or before last season rather. Finally went winless, and he's been winless this season as well. He's desperately trying to turn things around, but he's got the ultimate challenge, and that is beating Richard Regan Jr. in an Xfinity car. It's been almost impossible this season. It's been done a couple of times. We'll see if it can be done one more time here at Charlotte. It's a very hot track, triple digits, almost 120 degrees, and Richard Regan Jr. prepares to start from the lead for the final time this season. The iRacing sedan pace car pulls off. Richard Regan Jr. waits for the restart zone, and for the final time in Xfinity, we're green in the Xfinity Series. Bradley Holly getting that Xfinity car loose off of turn 2. How many more times can you say Xfinity in one lap? Xfinity, Abner Acosta into P2.
Nothing as quick as Xfinity 10G internet, as they say.
Indeed, Acosta trying to get to the outside of Regan. Not going to happen there, but we get one lap done under green here. Clean and green. Elliott White peeks to the inside of Bradley Holly, washes up a little bit, and Abner Acosta around the outside of Richard Regan Jr. takes the lead.
I think Regan Jr. might be in saving mode a little bit early on in this one. That Reese Bogue and Richard Regan Jr. partnership. Keep in mind, a team that has some backing when it comes to the Bogue side, that's known more so for being stronger long run as a grouping. So we'll have to see how this plays out in terms of the long-term picture of this race. Same for White.
Almost single file all the way through the field very, very early here. It's a 50-minute race, and this series has been known this season to not have very many cautions. We've had a bunch of caution-free races. We've had a couple races with one, maybe two cautions, but other than that, it has been a very, very clean season so far. So you've got to think about tire saving, you got to think about strategy, and you got to think about not racing too hard here in the early stages of the race as Doug Evans and Mike Knight battle for P11.
Lots of scrapping already in the heart of this field. And interestingly enough, Mike Knight saying, you know what? I'm just going to take all the positions right now. That's not going to help him long run, but it's going to give him track position. I'll give him
wide. Daniel Knight. Mike Knight was able to clear Daniel Knight and Reese Bogue, but they were 3 wide for a moment there down the back straight. That's not the sign of drivers who are trying to sit back and wait. Those are some very, very racy drivers right now, and Bogue and Knight are still side by side.
Yeah, that would have caught us the potentially for a shouty moment there. Danny Cervantes doing well, though, right in front of them now. Reese Bogue, I think, just starting to get a little bit of the grip down. Didn't have the best of qualifying runs, intriguingly enough, based on that grouping, but is slowly finding some momentum around that bottom of the racetrack, following the line.
Mike Knight and Daniel Knight, I don't believe they're related, actually. For once, two drivers with the same last name in the PRL, just seemingly completely unrelated, unless I'm very, very wrong there. But they're going to keep battling for that as Jeff Evans trying to move his way up in the world here around the outside of Adam Zemke. He is clear. He's up into P6.
Oh, I think Terry Radford and a few others just had a crash at the very back of the field.
Oh, dear.
Somehow we're still green, but we've lost 4 cars from this main pack. Everyone else is running single file, but here's the thing. You get too aggressive here, you likely go backwards to your contact or tires.
Terry Radford down pit road. Jeremy Bailey, Doyle Lawrence, and Chris Justice seemingly involved as well. We'll take a look at that when we can, but big trouble at the back of the field. They must have been off the racing surface for no caution to come out. I think Lawrence, Justice, and the third driver we were talking about, Jeremy Bailey, are okay, but Terry Radford is seemingly already out. He's already pulled off the pit road.
Fortunate for Radford, and this is what I'm talking about here. Notice this is the very corner of my eye when there was a lot of shouty out of 2.
Oh, Jeremy.
Wow is all I can say. That is way too low. Either that's a bad line, or just when he tried to lift out of the gas or go to the brake, it just stabbed out on him. I think it was more so the former.
Oh dear. Terry Radford came into tonight with that new Coke paint scheme on the number 3. Not been good luck for him. Out of the race already. Pulls it off of the track already. He's back behind the wall. He's already in the YouTube chat. His race is over. His season is over, unfortunately, as well. Jeremy Bailey continues, and it looks like Doyle Lawrence and Justice made it through that with no damage. They just had to check up a little bit. So, in total, 1 driver taken out in a very big way. Luckily, nobody else involved.
Still, though, Richard Regan Jr. tried to make some passes after looking through all of that, but has lost ground because he didn't get the pass done, to the point where both him and Acosta started pushing up the track. I think now this is where you start to see that mid-run speed start to pick up. Elliott White, NASCAR college experience we talked about in the past, starting to show the long-run tempo. He is a very intriguing prospect to keep an eye on. Richard Regan Jr., a longtime PRL veteran.
He is. He's taken second in the PRL in terms of all-time wins, so he's going to be very, very happy about that. He's streaked away from Abner Acosta. But something that I've neglected to mention for the first 6 minutes of this race, Justin, is last night, Abner Acosta actually won the PRL GT3 Sprint Championship. He won his third GT3 championship in the PRL, and he's going to be riding on that. He's got more championships across the PRL than Regan does, but doesn't quite have the more wins now after Regan's hot streak.
Yeah, but the thing is, Regan Jr.'s been able to perform with multiple different teams over the past few years, especially rose up in prominence with the private label team Hype Machines, the paint scheme Acosta's driving with here tonight. But for the most part, he's been consistent with just about every team he's been put with. Shows talent, versatility, and why he's been also with the few big organizations in the iRacing scene at the official race level.
Yeah, private label team Hype, Dirty South, now his own team, Regan Bogue Motorsports. I'm going to get criticized by all those guys after the race tonight, but I'm pretty sure he's done some racing for Wadaback. I think he must have.
Would have been a couple years ago.
To check the old history books on that, but that's definitely happened at least once. At least once that must have happened, and I don't know when it was, but it must have happened at some point. Right now, he's got a whole bunch of Wadaback behind him because Bradley Holly, whether it's pushing too early or whether it's short run pace, he's going for third here to the inside of Richard Regan Jr. into turn 3. There goes the fighter jet, and he is going to take this dogfight to Hollytown. P3 for Bradley Holly.
Holly also doing strong long distance and long term, I should rather say. Only 4/10 of fall for a lot of the drivers. Here's the big difference. Acosta and Regan Jr. are running up at fall-off rates of nearly a full second because of how quick they were in the short run. I think some of these drivers who just kept it patient, stayed in a line, worked together, are really starting to rise up to the top, especially what we've seen with White.
Regan almost into the back of Holly here. I think we're starting to get into the settled rhythm of these races. It's still going to be Holly versus Regan for third, but Richard Regan Jr. knows we're still only 8 minutes into this race. There's no reason to push him especially hard here. There's no reason to get too aggressive. So it's about that time in those Xfinity races, Justin, where things start to get a little bit quiet and drivers just go to work on saving tires for later on in the run.
Well, that wasn't quiet of a hit, though, for Danny Cervantes. The backdrop just rubbed against the safer barrier and damaged the right front fender. Cervantes does not look comfortable now because that's crumpled up the quarter panel and the right front fender. That's going to see Cervantes drop.
How about that for a Jeff Evans switchback there through the middle of Daniel Knight and Cervantes? Doesn't get into Danny, doesn't get into anybody, but he does get into P7 down to the bottom. A little bit of a shake up, a little bit of a slide up, but there he goes. P7 for Jeff Evans. Jeff Sevens.
See what you did there, but right now you're seeing what Cervantes is struggling with. Not only is he struggling now with the rotation because of the right front, that quarter panel, when it's crumpled in, the farther back you peel that back, the less downforce you have on that right rear tire. Meaning until you come at a pit stop, you'll get looser and looser and looser to the point where you're nearly spinning out, potentially, depending on if you peel it all the way back by accident with the contact of the wall. So that essentially is going to be a very struggling race car the rest of the way, and it's going to make Cervantes a sitting duck. Everyone else in that pack might have a good chance to pass.
Reese Bogue trying to get by his teammate there. A little bit of an argument before the camera panned away. There goes Reese, but he's not clear. Danny Cervantes, he gets into him. Lucky not to get turned into the wall there, but Danny's day has gone from bad to worse as his teammate tries to clear himself across his nose.
I would consider co-team owner based on the team name there. I think Bogue just bottomed out and pushed him up the racetrack. Now it's going to be a struggle for Cervantes even more so. Doug Evans just able to take advantage because of all that.
Yeah, Reese and Richard Regan Jr. race with each other, or rather race alongside each other. I'm trying to figure out the way to say that in real life. Richard Regan Jr. is actually the crew chief, I believe, for Reese in his Legends car.
Race lead.
Efforts, but for the race lead, Elliott White gets by Abner Acosta through the inside in the quad oval. Abner must have made a mistake off of turn 4 because he has gotten swallowed up instantly by both his teammate and Richard Regan Jr.
I think Acosta, the tire-saving wizard, somehow managed to cook the right front tire. He is all of a sudden struggling a little bit to the point where he's having to back up the corners massively. Just overshot the corner exit for the apex, nearly knocked the wall down. Elliott White lucky not to run into him and follow him up in the wall. Regan Jr. takes advantage as well.
I think Danny Cervantes got into trouble as well again. 3 laps in a row. he has gotten into some amount of trouble. We'll take a look at what happened to him in a moment, but it's unfortunate for Abner Acosta, Justin. We've said for season upon season, he's the tire wizard. He's the best on the long run. And lately, well, first and foremost, he hasn't been able to practice as much as he normally does, so he hasn't quite had the speed there, but he's not had the same tire-saving abilities, and he's been beaten by his teammate to a championship last season with Elliott White. He's been beaten by Richard Regan Jr. this season. What more can he do for next season other than practice more?
Wrap the cars in bubble wrap.
That could work.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes the bubbles end up getting popped. Regan Jr.'s just trying to pop that aero bubble, though, around Elliott White here because he's been able to close up with some of the scuffling. But all that scuffling with the issue with Acosta out of that corner exit has allowed Pauly, Sink, Zemke, all of them to just stay within close distance here where if they fight too long for the lead, you're talking about the 5, 184, 48, and 57 looking to throw the numbers in. Here we go.
Richard Regan Jr. to the inside as his teammate gets disconnected with internet issues. Richard Regan Jr. takes the lead. It's been a 6-win season for him. He's won 2/3 of the races so far, and that's not enough for him. He wants to go for 7 out of 10. He wants to go for 70%. Can Elliott White switch him back here and get to the inside? No, he can. He backs out of things going into turn 2. We've got a new leader, and it's your pole sitter back to the front.
Starting to show that long run pace a little bit in that race car. Curious if Acosta bounces back at this point with how things have flared out. The wild card in the midst of all this still is Bradley Holly because his expectations were so low for tonight. It's almost like the effect that I've seen sometimes where you have to the point where you have no confidence. It ends up working out to where you end up doing much more than you exceeded or wanting to exceed for the night.
Yeah, maybe. That hasn't worked out for Elliott White and Abner Acosta this season, unfortunately, especially Elliott White, who has just kind of not had practice at a lot of tracks this season. But at Charlotte, at least, I don't think he needed much practice. Of course, he's got a ton of experience here. Anybody who races this car in any series, especially the iRacing NASCAR College Series, you've definitely run a lot of laps at Charlotte. So once you get in here, it's like riding a bike. You never forget.
Experience is so valuable. That's why so many drivers, or so many teams in turn, prefer that. Munsters who has 6 years of experience in PRL competition. Colton Lane, he's been a bit better on the long runs. He's improved a bit since Rockingham, for example, in the first parts of the year where he struggled mightily long run. Tonight, just picking them off one by one, passing by those with the damage.
Lane, he's sneaky. He's a sneaky little guy, and tonight he's doing a great job back into the top 10. I've actually got a notification on Discord. I'm going to see if it's from a Whataback driver. It isn't, unfortunately, but I thought I was about to hear from Terry Radford giving us his final thoughts on this race, but he has not, and I don't think he'll be getting back into this race. I think he's done for the season as he's checked into the chat, thanking the PRL for all they do. And thanks to Jeff Evans for giving us some action here. Back up into P6 for a moment, but Zemke's fighting him on the outside.
Yeah, a lot of loose moments right now on that outside line. You can just see how it struggles grip-wise compared to the truck. Truck's a little bit more planted for the corner exit when you're on that high side, just burns up your right front. But at the same time, if you're able to time it up just right, you can use that as a ramp, be able to pass alongside. The problem is the grip's just not there with the high track temp at the 117 Fahrenheit range.
Key to the outside of Knight, the Applebee's car. I think we did hear last week that that's not an officially sponsored car. That is just Adam Zemke being a fan of the Applebee's, but an officially sponsored car sits ahead of him, Tommy's Pub, on the Daniel Knight machine, a longtime PRL sponsor, a longtime supporter of Daniel Knight, and I'm still waiting to see a menu of that place. I want to see if they have some interesting appetizers, maybe some burrata over there at Tommy's Pub. I'm getting hungry. It's 9:54 p.m. We shouldn't be doing this.
I think I tracked down the exact Tommy's Pub it is, by the way, because of the region. It's the Charlotte, North Carolina-based pub.
Wow. Home race. Home race for Tommy's Pub. How about that?
The harp gives it away on the side of the race car. That's their logo. Or the hood.
What are you going to be ordering from Tommy's Pub, Justin? What's on the menu?
Good question. They don't have a menu.
I know. That's the worst thing. Hypothetically, if they did have a menu, what would you be ordering? What would be at the top of your list?
Chicken wings?
Good choice. I mean, that's an easy choice at Tommy's Pub. Are you a boneless or a bone-in guy?
Boneless.
Yes! I knew I liked you, Justin. Correct answer.
I mean, who likes to eat into chicken bone?
Exactly. And they taste worse. They taste like bone. They taste like cartilage, but boneless chicken wings just taste like chicken. You can say they're nuggets. You can say they're pressed patties of breast meat. I don't care. They're delicious.
Now, I will give a shout out to that side of things, too. They also, by the way, sponsor real world race cars, just so happens.
Ooh.
So they are a supporter of motorsports in general when it comes to that region. They do sponsor what appears to be a street stock or a bone stock. I think it's a street stock.
I'm wondering if Daniel Knight would race that car in real life then. I don't actually know the Daniel Knight lore. I know that Reese Bode races in real life up in New England, where I am now. I know Richard Regan Jr. used to. Now he's kind of doing crew stuff for Reese this season, but let's talk to Daniel Knight about that, as they are side-by-side for P5 here. Thomas Sink versus Bradley Holly. Half the field is Whataback drivers, so it's no surprise to see Whataback versus Whataback, but it is a surprise to see them both drifted off a turn 2.
Yeah, Thomas Sink, longtime dominator on Wednesday nights. That is not going to work in that line tonight, because as we've seen throughout the evening, you go so low that you're trying to clear on by the apex. It seems like drivers just hit a bump, hit the splitter on the bump, pushes you up in the racetrack, and it gives you only half a second to respond before you push up into your competitor or get yourself off the gas. You kind of almost need to arc them out to avoid that bump to be able to try and get something done now.
You got to start thinking about pit stops now as well soon. Still 33 minutes left to go in the race. We're not even to halfway. But I'm thinking back to last week at Texas, another 1.5 mile track. Very similar race with only one caution. We saw a pretty short pit window, a pretty narrow pit window. Drivers didn't really separate out that much. Bradley Holly tried to go for an overcut to get some fresher tires at the end to chase down Richard Regan Jr. Didn't work out. I'm wondering now that we haven't had this caution in the opening laps of the race, will the pit window open up a little bit more? Will some drivers decide to go off strategy here and come in early? Or I think we'll see basically a half and half split.
That's a good question, because right now the estimate, based on the laps and the minutes remaining, is around 92. But that could potentially shrink a lot as we've seen in the truck race. In regards to how this could play out on the strategy, the max can go about 65 laps on gas. Likely going to see drivers peel in after 50 to 55. So it's almost a split of the halfway, but just past that point normally. For those who go on the undercut half and half, might be a struggle to end this race. But again, are you willing to sacrifice 2.4 seconds if you don't come in on the right lap, or you go too long on the strategy? That's a lot of time you have to make up on the racetrack per lap you try and overcut it tonight.
By the way, I will remind people, signups are open for the Precision Racing League next season, in every single series, every single one of them that you see here on RaceSpotTV, and also a non-broadcasted Radical Fix series, all open for signups. So if you want to race with the people on your screen right now, if you want to join the PRL NASCAR Xfinity series and boost up those numbers, the grid is open, and you can already see a lot of drivers signed up here. Of course, all the names you know. Richard Regan Jr. signed up, Abner and Elliott are signed up, Bradley Holly, the whole gang. Come and join them next season, or race in the trucks, or GT3, or GT4, or GR86s, or Formula 3. It's all fun.
Extremely fun to race throughout the season. It's extremely fun to try and see your name become one of the top competitors. It's two fighting. It looks like Jeremy Bailey is pulling off the track. That was a little bit of potential factor, but outside of that, these top three drivers tonight in the Xfinity Series race doing what they have been for the past few months. Dominating the top three. They're three-year best of the best right now. Holly, currently amongst those in the best from the fixed side of the era of PRL action.
These have been the big three. Last season, we kind of had a big four with Sean Campbell on the scene, but unfortunately, he's moved on to different things this season, not with us fighting for those wins and continuing his rivalry with Richard Regan Jr., but this is a very, very close run up front here. Elliott White is sticking with Regan. He's not losing him. He's actually gaining, if anything. Off of turn two, he gets these great runs every single time. but he hits that dirty bubble that we always talk about. Can't get the run down the back straight and can't get to the inside of him.
And that's where the pit strategy comes into play, and I think that's something Elliott White might be thinking about here. Think about it this way. That pit stop window is in about 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes on the clock. At this point, the closer you can keep yourself to Regan Jr., the more it almost opens up a window to say, okay, I'm just going to keep charging and then peel off the pit and not allow Regan Jr. to respond. So that's part of the option. Also, there's the option of hoping Regan Jr. is starting to slip back because it looks like he's got the run and Regan Jr.'s got him.
Elliott White finally gets to the inside. Regan knew that the move was coming, didn't really want to fight side by side, backs out of it, and he is going to be stuck to the bumper of Elliott White until that pit window comes around here. For the first time in quite a while, we have a new race leader, and it's last season's champion, Elliott White. Not going to be able to win this season's championship. I don't even think he's been with us for all the races this season, but he is certainly going for the glory here in the final round.
Yeah, I think he's seen an opportunity with a little bit of the slower rotation speed for Regan Jr. You can already see, though, Regan Jr.'s differences in line. Trying to get a little bit more of a diamond for the exit. Try and get a little bit more speed for that exit line. The car's just not sticking the way I think he wants it to. He's also trying to give it a little bit of an offset because of the air, the dirty air. If you fall it wheel to wheel, you're likely going to push up the track. He's trying to offset it a little bit. It's been talked about where you almost want to make sure you don't have that air on the right front tire more than anything else because of how impactful burning that tire up is.
We hear from Matt Schaefer in the chat. He says Abner is on the move. Unfortunately, it seems to be the move in reverse, Mr. Schaefer, because he is still losing these two up front. We'll see if he can start to catch Regan maybe now that his teammate's taken the lead. Now that Regan seems to be falling off a little bit, can Abner take P2? We don't know just yet, but we do know it's stringing out a little bit here. Regan is losing White for the lead.
Yeah, Elliott White, I think, just waited and saved based on what we're now seeing here. Regan Jr., I think, might be in a spot where he's now going to have to think about that undercut call to try and get the advantage and then play defense the rest of the way. Acosta is going to be the intriguing mark now in this. We'll have to see. By the way, these drivers are battling really aggressively back here. I've already seen Mark Halen pass through the grass to try and pass by one car. Matt Gagnon had already gotten the pass back. You have RaceSpoT dealing with damage all over the car because he has bounced off a few drivers. They are not battling easily for 10th.
Down at the bottom of your screen, Doug Evans comes in, but at the top, Mark Halen thought about making it 3 wide in that Michael Waltrip car. Didn't happen, though. This is craziness here for the last spot in the top 10. Matt Gagnon, RaceSpotTV, Mark Halen. Matt Gagnon is Shanghai in our YouTube chat, by the way. We heard from him earlier cheering on Richard Pruitt. He's trying to cheer on himself right now because RaceSpotTV is all over the road trying to block this off, and Mark Halen's all over the road trying to pass him.
Yeah, this is almost like a roadblock. He has better pace, but no one wants to go, and now that's bad.
That was a huge block from RaceSpotTV down the back straight. An unnecessary block. And Matt Gagnon tries to switch it back, but overcorrects, slams it into the wall. And that's just a little bit of over-aggression from RaceSpotTV, and it all comes bad for Gagnon. But Evans and Zemke are in. The pit cycle's kicking off as these guys are going crazy.
I don't know why you're blocking for 10th spot at that point of the run. There's still a long way to go, and now everyone is dealing with significant damage from that incident, including Kalen.
And Gagnon is just flailing now. The right side of that truck is punched in now. But from second place in the race, Richard Regan Jr. blinks first. He's on pit road. And a bunch of drivers are going to follow him in. Daniel Knight for Tommy's Pub is in. And there's trouble further back.
I think RaceSpotTV got hit again on the pit entry by one of the drivers in the 62, Kalen. So a lot of drivers with damage, and Richard Regan Jr., this is a critical stop. Elliott White has to respond, is responding to the other side of the track.
Regan gets it stopped. You see his co-team owner, RaceSpotTV, missing his box in the background. Gagnon misses it as well. It's the twilight zone in this series. Elliott White and Abner Acosta are both in. They're going to cover off Richard Regan Jr., but look up front. Bradley Holly's going to stay out. He's going to go off strategy. Colton Lane is as well. But you saw in the back of your screen there before we panned away, Thomas Sink spun on pit entry.
Thomas Sink has a black flag too, so not a good sequence. It is Bradley Holly tries to go really long. He did call just now for the pit stop, so a little bit of a stagger out, get a little bit of space for the rest of the pack.
I'm surprised that Holly isn't just throwing everything at this. But let's see what happened to Thomas Sink here on pit entry. Very, very late. Doesn't get it slowed down, and with that overspeed, loses it halfway through.
Well, Thomas Sink threw the kitchen sink at it, and you've seen the result of that. Too quick at the commitment cone. That's why there was so much of the wheel hop. Very lucky didn't loop it the other way to the wall. Daniel Knight also just picked up a black flag for speeding on that same sequence. Actually, a second black flag.
Oh, no. It gets worse. Jacob Emery leaves Daniel Knight as a memory there. He's going to get that lap ahead of him. But you can see how things have shaken out here. Richard Regan Jr. with that one-lap undercut, and Elliott White and Abner Acosta's retaking the lead. Here comes Bradley Holly out of the pits, and with just 2 laps on those older tires, you just saw Jeff Evans blow by him, and Doug Evans is coming onto the scene as well. Bradley Holly might have fresher tires later on in the run, but he's got about a 5-second gap back up to Abner Acosta.
Yeah, Acosta, I don't think, had the greatest of outlaps. Lots of traffic on his pit exit. That's what lost him so much time, I think, to Elliott White. But now it's absolutely in Regan Jr.'s court. Colton Lane in. At this point, I think if you're Mark Kalin, you're hoping for something to happen if you're still on the racetrack like he is with the damage.
He's going off strategy. I don't know if Colton Lane actually got it slowed down there, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another black flag for pit lane speeding.
Another for Lane, yes, indeed. He has that happen a lot.
I mentioned that Charlotte is a track that a lot of drivers know, so they're probably like, you know what, I don't need a lot of practice here, but that pit lane entry is very, very difficult. It always bites some drivers, and it bites Colton Lane, it bites Thomas Sink, it bites Daniel Knight. Mark Kalin's getting bitten in other ways off of turn 4, but he's not going to pit just yet.
His gap to the lead still about a half of a track, if not 3/4 of a racetrack. So at this point, the play, again, hope for a caution. Get yourself track position. We'll see what happens from there. That's going to be the interesting mark, as Colton Lane, indeed, still has to serve the black flag. The reason I mentioned that point, Joey, it's about a third of the time I think I've kept an eye on racetracks. I've seen Colton Lane speed at least once his PRL career over the past 5 years.
Colton's been nice this season. He's been good. He hasn't been coming afoul of the rules, but eventually everybody does get that penalty. Get a little bit too aggressive on the entry there. But look at this up front. This is the battle for what will become the race lead once Mark Kalin comes in. It's White versus Regan again. He's got Sink and Knight behind both of them. They're both on a little bit fresher rubber because they waited longer, so this is going to get very, very interesting as those two try to get their laps back after their penalties, and Regan and White fight for the lead.
Yeah, the thing is, though, Elliott White is a little bit quicker right now. Regan Jr. just waiting patiently, going to let him go.
There he goes. Elliott White for the race lead. A little bit of a wiggle on the apron for good measure, but to second for now, will become the race lead in a little bit if everything goes right. Still waiting on Mark Kalin to come in, but Elliott White can't even see him. He's 15.5 seconds up the road.
I don't think he's concerned about Mark Kalin, because there's the thing. Kalin can only go about maybe 7 more laps. This is likely going to be the battle for the race win with the way the trend is going. This is a track, mind you. It's very hard to trigger a caution unless you have everybody have an incident like we've seen up towards the back earlier. Everyone, for the most part, has kept themselves spaced out outside of the battles in the double-digit positions.
Stirring up front. I'm looking at Mark Kalin's lap times right now. I'm going to do a little bit of math again for you here, Justin. Mark Kalin did a 33.3 on that last lap. Elliott White, 31.6, more or less 2 seconds. About the same amount of fall-off we saw in the Truck Series race. He can only lead about 7 more laps here, even if he does stay out.
I think he's calling for the pit lane indeed this time. So this is now your battle for the win, likely between these two. Here's the problem with the battle. You have drivers on lap, in terms of lap traffic, who want to get by. And the interesting thing is, Daniel Knight, 6th lap stint, he is on a little bit fresher tires. You have Thomas Sink, who has been dealing with the penalty, fresher tires as well. And it looks like the patience levels are now wearing thin. Knight wants to go.
Richard Regan Jr. is not going to be happy about this, I don't think. I hope we can see his face on Zoom because he's got lapped cars trying to pass him while he's trying to stick with Elliott White. There goes Knight around the outside. Sink trying to go around the outside as well. Knight squeezes Regan down. He is not going to be a happy camper in that Supra.
From what it looked like there, it almost looked like Thomas Knight thought he was going to let him go, or rather Daniel Knight, and was giving him the squeeze because he thought he'd be clear by that point. But that is absolutely hurtful when it comes to the time right now on the racetrack. That is at least 7/10 loss because of those two cars.
Mark Kalin did come down pit road, by the way, going all the way to the back of the field. No surprise there. P14 for him. He's going to try and get as much progress as he can on those fresher tires for the rest of the night. But Elliott White officially takes over the race lead. And now these passes are very consequential for Daniel Knight and for Thomas Sink because they're 2 laps down. They want to get 1 lap down, so if we do get another caution or multiple cautions, they can be in contention for those lucky dogs.
And already looking up the road, Elliott White already, I think, is in a slightly better spot here traffic-wise. Now can just give up the inside. Not even really lose too much time there. Maybe a 10th at best. Regan Jr. absolutely got the worst end of that situation with all those cars.
Very, very ironic if we ended the season with a lapped car getting involved with one of the leaders and bringing out a caution. I don't think that's going to happen. It's been very, very clean so far, but just something to consider as Thomas Sink charges forward now. He's going to be the next driver on Elliott White's list. And even if these guys do pass the leaders, as Daniel Knight has, their tires are going to fall off faster than White and Regan's are. We can say that much. It's not a slight on Thomas Sink and Daniel Knight. It's just a fact of how the race has gone. A 2-lap difference in tires is not going to save Thomas Sink and Daniel Knight's race pace. White's going to catch him again in a couple of laps' time, maybe in a couple of minutes' time.
I would say more so Knight. Sink, I think, is going to be the tougher part of the equation because Sink, remember, was a top 5 car before everything fell apart in the pit lane. So that's just something you have to think about now. Regan Jr. going to have to deal with that dirty air. Is not going to help him. On the bright side for Regan Jr.'s chances, Elliott White has been having to deal with the same with Daniel Knight, and that's hurting Elliott White in terms of his tire saving right now with the advantage. The thing is, too, with a gap like this, if you start pushing, you equalize those tires all so quicker and heat up those tires all too much. You just have to let the race come to you at this point.
It's been caution-free for the first 33 minutes of this race. I don't want to jinx anything like I have a couple times in the PRL so far in the past couple of weeks, but we've had multiple caution-free races in this series. There was an exact number that Charles Sumner mentioned the other day. I think it was 3 caution-free races in a row before last week. Then we finally did get a caution, but if we get another caution-free race tonight, that would be more than half of the season in this series. That would be run completely under green, and that just goes to show the talent level of this series, the experience level of this series, and this is why this is the premier PRL NASCAR league.
Yeah, a lot of excitement when it comes to this field and the talent level throughout the years. I absolutely agree. If you want to be able to succeed, you need to succeed not just on the Sundays, I argue, with the Cup Series, but also on the Wednesday nights, because a lot of drivers argue if you can be able to drive in all 3 types of racing vehicles in stock car competition today and the top level of the United States, the trucks, the Xfinity Series cars, and the Cup Series cars, then you are very well rounded and can drive anything. Guess what? Elliott White can drive just about anything. Regan Jr., very quick in everything stock car wise. Acosta, very much improving over the years to be able to get to this point, because remember, he was always a dominant driver in the road course races 2 years ago, and now is very well rounded on the ovals too.
I think you and I, Justin, we need to hop into one of these series one of these days, and we got to see who the fastest race spot commentator in the PRL is.
Yeah, I'm very curious who that can be. I've heard a lot about what Evan Pizzoco's been able to do. I haven't never raced him.
I've seen your oval I rating, Justin. It's higher than mine. You've been mentioning Road to Pro potentially. I couldn't even mention Road to Pro, so I have a feeling you'd beat me, but I think we should do it. We should get all the race spot commentators back together on an oval soon.
Yeah, we'll have to really see. No, Terry Radford's been putting a ton of work in since the last time I raced him. I won't get into
Chris Justice too. Chris Justice is basically a streamer for us. He's got the heart rate monitor up as well. We don't have to turn those on, but our heart rate's probably
caution.
one higher. Caution is out. You're exactly right. Looking at the back of the field, who was it? Thomas Sink involved.
It's that lap car grouping in front of the leaders.
Exactly. Was Daniel Knight involved as well? Elliott White not involved. Richard Regan Jr. not involved. But what has happened to Thomas Sink?
I think I'll say the same thing as the response there. Lap traffic.
Oh, no.
Need to be smart here. Thomas Sink battling this was for position. No, it was a long lap difference, possibly, if not position. Just ends up giving a bump out of the corner twice, and around they go.
Hard hitting the wall for Sink, back up onto the racing surface. And I think our two race leaders are very, very happy that Sink had pulled a little bit of a gap on them at that point, was racing with Daniel Knight. They didn't get involved, but caution comes out, and suddenly, Justin, I realize I shouldn't have said anything about green flag runs, because we're going to have a 10-minute sprint to the finish once this caution ends. It's not going to be a long run at all.
I was going to say that, but I wanted to see if it would end up happening, the commentator's curse, but now you have to be quick on the short run. Here's the thing. White and Regan Jr. very good on the short run. Acosta absolutely blistered his way to the lead in the early going, remember. So this can go in a lot of different ways and really throw Bradley Holland into the conversation. Technically, you might be able to throw Jeff Evans in the conversation because all of a sudden he's in fourth.
And nobody goes for the craziness of staying out. They all know there's 13 minutes left to go in this race. There'd be no point in doing that. Whole field comes down pit road. And it is a race off of pit road here. Holly, Regan, Acosta, White, and more. All taking 4 tires, all taking fuel. Elliott White leaves his box. Is he going to be able to beat Regan out? Yes, he is. Or no, he's not. I could have sworn he beat him to the cone, but oh no. Elliott White speeding on pit road. He's going to the back of the field. This is catastrophic, Justin. Oh, dearie me. Elliott White, I feel like this has happened before, but it's happened once more. In trying to stay ahead of Richard Regan Jr. on pit road, Elliott White gets a little bit over-aggressive and goes all the way to the back of the field. He's still got to wait. He's got to wait for Gagnon to come by. He's got to wait for Hunter to come by. This is catastrophic. There goes Gagnon. There goes Hunter. He might even have to let Mike Knight and Colton Lane by. He is going all the way to the back of the lead lap. 14th, 15th. Disaster. How many times can I say catastrophic? I'm going to say catastrophic about 15 more times.
Yeah, this is an absolutely very difficult spot, once again, to emphasize at this point of the race. There's a lot of discussion in terms of the time here, too, Joey. There was that 7-mile-per-hour speeding difference that came into play. Now, is it Regan Jr. or is it going to be Acosta who comes up in front?
Or could it be Jeff Evans? This is going to be a fantastic finish to this season. A short run, potential craziness at the front. And the most important thing is none of it really matters for the championship. Richard Regan Jr.'s locked things up. Of course, Abner Acosta probably wants to stay in second, but he most likely will stay in second. He's 33 points ahead of Jeff Evans. That's an almost insurmountable gap, even if Jeff wins the race and Abner finishes last. So Richard and Abner have nothing to lose. They could throw everything at each other into turn one and maybe get into each other, maybe get into a little bit of argy-bargy and collide. That's what Jeff Evans is hoping for.
That has to be part of the thought process, but it also at the same time can't be your thought process of expecting that to happen, really. It can go 110 different directions here with how this could play out to close out this campaign. This could get difficult, to say the very least. Again, 10 minutes up on the clock. Now it gets to where, how does this go, and how do these drivers play this?
Single digits of minutes to go. It's a crazy way to end this season, because as I said, it has been a mostly caution-free season. It's been a mostly clean season, but in the final race, in the craziness, we finally got a caution, and we finally got a short run here. Richard Regan Jr. has been the dominant driver this season. He's had short run speed. He's had long run speed, more so in both cases than Abner Acosta. But Abner's got one more chance to show what he's made of this season, to get one on Richard Regan Jr. after winning that GT3 championship last night. And he definitely wants to do that. It'll be symbolic coming into next season.
Yeah, this is not going to be an easy battle, I think, for either of these drivers here, because if anyone makes the mistakes, indeed, you have those behind. I'm very curious, though, how White tries to recover from this. 13th on back for the restart. A few restarts in a row. He might have a conversation chance again, but he's going to need some luck.
Yeah, I mentioned Abner and Richard as potentially being another caution. Well, Elliott White getting aggressive from the back of the field, that's always a possibility as well. We are ready to go green one more time. Will it be the final restart in the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series this season? We'll have to wait and see. Richard Regan Jr. retains control of the field. Abner Acosta to his outside, but one more time, we're green at Charlotte. It's a great restart from Richard Regan Jr. Bursts to the head of the field, and Jeff Evans is going to challenge Abner Acosta for second.
Perfect restart for Regan Jr. Be able to get the jump here. Jeff Evans, not a good run to the corner, though, with the Acosta squeeze.
I think Abner really wanted to be side-by-side with Richard through there, but he didn't match him on the restart, got caught napping, and now he's got to do this thing the old-fashioned way, chase him down. Bradley Holly and Adam Zemke side-by-side. Evans gets a little bit of a bobble and runs Adam Zemke up the road.
A terrible restart for Evans for that entire sequence here. Not what the rest of the field wanted to have that either, with everything so bottled up.
Holly and Evans side by side. Now Evans trying to recover, trying to get the run off of 3, and he does on the top as Holly wiggles a little bit and look back to 6th. Doug Evans going for 5th. A fantastic run back to the top 5 for Doug.
All the clean drivers in terms of no damage up towards the front here. A lot of damage for Reese Bogue, though, still along that back of the race car. Didn't have too much time to be able to fix that race car to keep the track position.
And Reese Bogue has been more aggressive than anybody else in this race so far tonight. So if you're Doug Evans, you're having a great run right now, you do not want to see Reese Bogue in your mirror. He is going to throw everything at it right now, and he's almost going to throw the car into the wall off a 2.
Yeah, it's just been that type of night for the Ford machine. But with 7 minutes to go, that's about a 14-lap total. Still have Doug Evans not wanting to back down, or Jeff Evans rather, with how he's trying to go with these sliders against his teammates for what a back.
Yeah, little mistake through 3 and 4. Holly to the inside and into turn 1. Bradley Holly up into 3rd, but there is Mr. Jeff Evans still on the outside, still trying to get the run. Very focused. I think I saw him say the word Brad there. Still side by side as these two discuss their battle in real time, and there he goes into P3.
Stay calm, cool, and collected in these types of fights, because if you end up getting yourself mad, even amongst teammates, you'll end up making mistakes or pressurizing your own self into mistakes into the wall. Well done by Evans to at least be able to get that spot back after the struggles in the first couple laps of the restart.
Big mistake for Doug Evans off of turn 2. That's going to allow Reese Bogue to get to the inside of him. Doug Evans, always a clean driver, always a respectful driver. Reese Bogue not been the same in this race, and he almost gets into the side of Doug Evans through turn 3. Doug is going to hang on to that position, but that shows you that Reese Bogue is going to get aggressive here, and the next time he gets the chance, he's going to be sending in like that again.
Yeah, you just got to be smart at this point. For Bogue, way too far back. Holly, I think, just looking to have a little bit of fun with his teammates to end off the season. This is similar to what we've seen on Monday with some of the Whataback racing drivers. Jeff Evans just so happened to be amongst those in that back and forth battling that night.
And he won on Monday night, technically. Marlon McMullen won that GR86 race on Monday, but he got a penalty for doing donuts too early, got sent back down the field. Jeff Evans gifted the win, and McMullen says, you know what, I won the championship, might as well let somebody else get the win. It was my own stupid penalty, and that's one way for Jeff Evans to get a win. He got a similar win at Talladega earlier this season as well.
Eventually, though, somebody's going to have to make a move in this battle for 3rd, because Zemke might pressurize both of them or force the issue.
Oh, Big wiggle for Bradley Holly. Gets into the wall off of turn 4. Adam Zemke to his inside now. Almost throwing a haymaker there through the quad oval as Zemke gets to the inside to turn 1, but the momentum's been on the outside there, and Holly's going to hang on.
Holly, I think, is very lucky he didn't lose that right rear quarter panel from all that slipping and sliding. But look what's happened to that backdrop. Reese Bogue is there, and now it could get interesting with him and Doug Evans.
Bogue has been a one-person entertainment show here. He's been the carousel of entertainment all on his own. To the outside of Doug Evans now. Can he get the run with that damage? He can. He's got no straight line speed, but he's going to switch it back to the inside into turn 1. Doug's not going to open the door. He's going to squash that gap, and Bogue's going to have to try and find another way by.
It's almost more so that he's a one-man bandstand. Here's the thing when it comes to a one-man bandstand. You're talking about someone trying to play multiple instruments at the same time and trying to do multiple things at once. It ends up to where eventually something breaks down. That seems to have been the night for Reese Bogue with some of the aggression. No offense to him.
And if we do get a caution, that's going to be the end of the race. We're in that window. 3 minutes 30 to go. If we do get a caution, that is this race done zone. So everybody stay respectful. Keep out of each other. Let's finish this season under green. Off turn 2 this time. Bogue is still bringing that gap down, but all of these attempts he's made at Doug Evans, none of them have worked, and somehow he's still got the speed in that car to keep making them.
Yeah, I think it's almost starting to equalize out a little bit because of how much damage Reese Bogue has on that car. Has some decent backing, as I mentioned, in terms of what's underneath the hood, but for the most part tonight, the damage kind of knocks all the speed out of it. It kind of doesn't make that matter too much.
Off of turn 2, Bogue has corner speed, we can say that much, but he's got no straight line speed, like Justin said. Through 3 and 4 here, there's only going to be about 5 more laps to go at the line or so, 6 more laps potentially, and this is the closest battle on track. Up front, Richard Regan Jr.'s extended the gap by a second over Abner Acosta, but for the Bogue of Regan Bogue, he's got a job to do, and for the Holly of Bradley Holly, he's got even more of a job to do, trying to get back by his teammate Jeff Evans. Jeff runs high through turn 2, Holly switches it down to the bottom, but Evans hangs on still, he's got the run.
Just trying to set it back up, and now keep in mind when it comes to these cars, the longer you go in the run, the harder it gets to make the pass. You can already see he's just trying to go for that crossover line, try and get that better run down the front stretch. Not close enough fully to make the full commitment to get to the inside yet.
You saw a little pink splash in the background of your screen there. Elliott White's making Reese Bogue's life even more difficult. He's made the move for P7. I'm not counting Elliott White out for the top 5 here. Maybe even P3 if he can get by all 4 of these guys. He's made a fantastic drive forward from restarting 15th. And a top 5 to end the season is not out of the question for that bright pink number 27.
Like I said, if there was a few restarts in these final few minutes, we might have seen Elliott White in contention. But now, most he can do is hope there's a little bit more fighting amongst these front runners. Get closed up, get up there. The thing is, Jeff Evans not backing down here whatsoever. He keeps taking that air away from Bradley Holly that he's been looking for.
It's a little bit like Tom Petty, won't back down. But Bradley Holly is going high. He's so high, like Tal Bachman would say, Canada's own. Off of turn 4 here. He's got another run through the quad oval, but the camera angles do deceive us. From this angle, looks not close at all. From the previous angle, it looks very close. And from the angle of inside the car of Bradley Holly, it is close, but it's not close enough. He's got a great run through the center of the corner again off of turn 2. The draft not going to do much for him down the back straight here, but he's going to try and set up the run through 3 and 4.
Oh, Holly, I think, starting to get that impatience level. This time he's close enough to do something if he gets the cross right.
It's going to be 2 laps to go at the line for your race leader, Richard Regan Jr., we believe. But Bradley Holly, this is the race right here. White behind trying to go for moves, but Bradley Holly running even higher than his teammate, Jeff Evans. Ducking it down to the bottom, going for a little bit of a road course switchback. Can't get the run this time. He is running out of time. It's going to be about 2.25 miles for him to try and get by Jeff Evans. And then he sends it into turn 3.
I think that was his one last chance. They're way too far back to go for that lunge.
Oh, it's the checkered flag. No more 1 lap for Richard Regan Jr. That is the flag. Those timing things in these timed races always come difficult, but I think Richard Regan Jr. is going to be very happy that the race ended 1 lap early. because he gets to celebrate being a champion 1 lap early. Richard Regan Jr., 7 wins in 10 races, and the 2023 Season 2 PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship.
Another championship to the trophy case. Yet another PRL victory for Regan Jr. He can celebrate. He knows that, right?
He can, but is that a Richard Regan Jr. thing to do, to be facially expressive? Not very often, but I have a feeling we're going to see his emotion expressed in these donuts here in a couple of moments. This will be Richard Regan Jr.'s 2nd championship on Wednesday nights. He's actually only the 2nd driver ever to win multiple championships on Wednesday nights, joining who else but Abner Acosta and Bradley Holly. In the PRL as a whole, this is Richard Regan Jr.'s 6th championship, which will tie him with nobody. That'll put him 3rd in terms of championships won in the PRL. 1 behind Abner Acosta, who went to 7 championships with that GT3 championship. But I don't think he's too concerned about that. He's getting the donuts done. He is a very happy guy, even though he doesn't look it. And once again, he is your champion.
I think he's more intently focused on how long can he burn this car out before the car blows up.
I don't know, but this is pretty incredible. A Polish victory lap with a lot of smoke. It's a little bit like a kielbasa. This is also Richard Regan Jr.'s 62nd win in the PRL, by the way. He's still got 54 more wins to take if he wants to beat Bradley Holly all time, but more and more, that looks like it might just be possible in a couple of years' time. Richard Regan Jr. wins at Charlotte over Abner Acosta and wins the championship as well. Jeff Evans hangs on to 3rd over his teammate Bradley Holly, who goes 2 seasons in a row without a win. He is going to be looking to next season to finally return to victory lane. Adam Zemke, great top 5 from him as well. Doug Evans, great run back through the field. He finishes P6 to end the season. Elliott White got a speeding penalty from the lead of the race under caution. He finishes P7 in a race that could have been a win for him. Bogue was the entertainment for us tonight. He finishes P8 ahead of Mike Knight and Mark Kalin. It's double MK to the end of the top 10. Nick Hunter, Chris Justice, Matt Gagnon, Doyle Lawrence, and Colton Lane brought us down to the end of the lead lap. And unfortunately, Jacob Emery was a memory with his good run ending 1 lap down. Jim Westerfield 2 laps down. Jeremy Bailey not going to be Terry Radford's best friend after tonight. He was 3 laps down. And Daniel Knight not going to be Thomas Sink's best friend, finishing in P19. Then we get into the used car lot of cars with heavy damage. Thomas Sink brought out that 2nd caution, ended up in the wall. Danny Cervantes got disconnected with an internet issue, and Terry Radford got Jeremy Bailey into the wall on lap 1. But a very clean race generally. 1 caution still, which I guess isn't clean by this series standards, but great season, Justin, and it's about time we talk to our drivers. Look who's joined us. First and foremost, it's 3rd place, Jeff Evans here with us. It's reverse order again as our champion's fashionably late, but Jeff, P3, holding off your teammate. It was a great race at Charlotte for you.
Yeah, that was probably some of the most fun racing I've had there, that last little 20 or so lap run. It was a good time.
And I think this is the first time we've done an interview with you where you're actually on cameras. So take us through the room. Give us a tour. What's that thing behind you, first and foremost? That that long black thing with a screen on it. What is that?
I have no idea which one
you're staring at it right now. You're looking straight at it. No. To the right.
Down?
To the right.
Oh, this.
Yes.
This is a fan.
Oh, why's it got a screen on it?
I don't, just doesn't turn off, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah, it tells me what room temp it is, and I don't think it's telling the truth.
Understandable. It's probably a lot hotter than it was at the start of the race, but
yep. What
a season for the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series. We did have a caution tonight, so 1 caution to add to the total, but in general, a very, very clean series. You think it'll stay that way next season?
I hope so, man. It's been a lot of fun running these races, especially with them all going green for the most part. It kind of gives you different chances to run different strategies, and people save tires, people push early, and kind of settles it out in the end. But I've had a ton of fun this whole season.
Well, Mr. Jeff T. Evans, congratulations on P3, and we'll see you in 3 or 4 weeks time for next season.
Yep, sounds good. Take it easy, guys.
Jeff Evans, P3, and a tour of the room. How about that, Justin? He's got a fan behind him just as I do, so we're best fan buddies there. But we got P2 Abner Acosta ready. Champion last night, 2nd tonight, and he's with Justin.
Yes, indeed. Abner, first things first. How did you feel about that race car tonight? Amongst the top 3 much of the evening. How did you feel?
Felt pretty good. Didn't do as good as I should have done with the tires. Just comparing myself with Elliott, I was like way off on my right front. But yeah, I feel like that's been an issue all season with this car with me. I think I just haven't been able to do well enough saving tire. But I was there. I mean, that we definitely did not need that last caution. But yeah, kart felt good enough to stay within half a second of the leaders.
I believe your brother mentioned this, but throughout the season, you became a dad. How was that factored in to this campaign and now having that to consider?
Well, my son is gonna be 2 years actually next month. But yeah, it's basically when I come into the races late or whatever, like last minute, is pretty much like I'm just putting him to sleep and just coming here to sit down. So not getting as much practice as I usually do, but no excuse. I mean, Richard was unbeatable the whole weekend, the whole season. Elliott was also really good. Elliott, the competition between Elliott and Richard is really good, and Elliott doesn't really last night I finished my race, I log out and he's playing Call of Duty. Like, he's not even practicing, and he still does amazing. I feel like he's the new tire wizard, at least on the Xfinity series for sure. But yeah, it's difficult, a little difficult, but it's fun to just come in here and race with everybody.
Was this night where you didn't have any practice laps for reference for this evening? But now, when it comes to the future, what's it going to take next season? Do we see you next season on Wednesday nights?
Yeah, you do. I do like sitting down. I like racing, and when I miss a season, I'm weird. Like, usually I'm like, man, I shouldn't race. And when I miss a season and I watch the guys race, I'm like, yeah, it would be cool if I was racing. So, I guess I'm a masochist. I'm in 3 leagues, NASCAR and Xfinity. So I think this season I practiced the most GT3, and I did decent there. Did well. But yeah, you'll see me as far as practice. It might be kind of like the same sit and drive, but this is my weakest car, so maybe for next season I should put in more practice in this one. So we'll see. You'll definitely see me.
Well, congratulations once again. Top 3 for the finishing award, second in the championship, Abner.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good night.
That's Abner Acosta, second on the board, second in the title fight.
And first in the title fight, last but not least, it's who else but our race winner, our champion, Richard Regan Jr. You've officially clinched it. You clinched it before tonight. How's that for a 6th championship in the PRL?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Can you guys bring Reese Bogue up too?
I suppose. He entertained us enough tonight. We've got to drag Reese Bogue up here. The Regan and the Bogue of Regan Bogue Motorsports. Not only a team's championship or a driver's championship for Richard, but a team's championship for both of you guys.
Yeah, definitely a great season. Danny's internet turned off on him again, so he can't join us for the interview. But awesome job by Reese and Danny and I all season long. Pretty much just had to start the race tonight, and we got the team championship locked down too, so that's pretty cool. Weatherback's had like a hold on the team championship over on Wednesday nights forever, so that's pretty cool to finally get a team championship. Yeah, the drivers championship's pretty cool. I had a really good season, and hopefully we can keep that momentum up for next season.
So Reese, I want to ask you about tonight since you're here. You were the carousel of entertainment back there. You were throwing all sorts of moves, keeping us entertained. Was that your mindset coming into tonight? Just be as aggressive as possible?
Well, I didn't really get a lot of practice in this week, like I don't really any week anyway. So I was just trying to see what I could do, and tonight was actually kind of going pretty good. I was kind of surprised and kind of happy with how it was going. So, I'm like, if I'm gonna run up in the front, I gotta act like I'm in the front and be aggressive. So I didn't mean to get anybody ticked off. I got them ticked off, but I was just trying to do what I could and showcase what I could do, and that's hoping what I did tonight.
So right now, back to Richard, you're at 62 wins in the PRL. That's 54 more wins you need to catch Brad for most wins all time. I mentioned it's looking like it's more and more possible if you're going to be picking up 7 wins every season. Are you looking at that big number? You think it could be done?
It'll definitely be cool if I could get there. I'm really good in this car, but when it comes to the next gen, I'm I'm not slow in it, but I definitely don't have the pace in the next gen as I do in the B car. I'm hoping maybe if they update some stuff with the car this offseason that suits my driving style a little bit. Kind of took a turn backwards this season with the tire and how I like to drive, but was able to get a win this season in that car too, so that's pretty good. And yeah, we'll see if we can catch Brad. That's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to finally get a season-long championship, because that's about the only thing I don't have in the PRL at this time. So definitely going to try to keep the momentum up for next season and to finish out the year strong and get those bonus points, so that way when Season 4 comes around, I can have a pretty relaxed run to the championship race.
Indeed. Regan and Bogue of Regan Bogue, teams champions and drivers champions. We'll see you guys next season, but I know you got one more thing to do, Richard.
Yeah, for sure. First, I got to thank my girlfriend, Kaylee. I had some car trouble today, so she actually did like a 3-hour total drive to pick me up from work and drive me 2 hours to my house so I could race tonight. So shout out to her for making this possible. Reese and Danny, awesome job all season long. Mission 22, Neonism Paint. Need a paint, go to facebook.com/neonism. Tell them the PRL sent you. Multiple Sclerosis Society, everyone at the PRL, and you guys at RaceSpot.
Always a pleasure. Richard Regan Jr., your champion, and of course Reese Bogue as well. Participating in the team's championship as well, scoring some big points. What a season, Justin. And honestly, after what he just said, I think Richard should probably be giving this championship trophy to Kaylee.
Yeah, a very competitive campaign once again from Richard Regan Jr. He's been doing this for years, ever since he joined the PRL around the 2020 campaigns. It's been difficult to stop. Car 56.
That is about it for us tonight. I remind you again, signups for the PRL next season are open in every single series. So if you want to go NASCAR racing or any other style of racing on any other night, signups are open. So we hope you'll join us in the series next season. That's it for the NASCAR Cups, the NASCAR Truck Series and Xfinity Series here. We got another championship finale coming up tomorrow night as the Formula 3 Series decides its champion officially, with Ozzie Milwane and Julio Palacio battling over that. But for now, I've been Joey Tebbin, Justin Prince has been Justin Prince, and our producer has been Hugo Luis. Until we see you next time, so long.